Hey y'all, Happy New Year! Thanks so much for joining me on this stream today. So I spent most of the holiday break reading and I got through the Lord of the Rings series and I'm so excited to share with y'all my presentation that I made. Well, let's get started. So basically, y'all know, most of you know the story of Lord of the Rings. However, did you know that there's the Silmarillion? It's also by J.R.R. Tolkien. However, it was edited by his son Christopher Tolkien. So, the Silmarillion is amazing. It's so inspiring, and I feel like if you're going to delve into Lord of the Rings or you're already a mega fan of Lord of the Rings, then the Silmarillion is just so complimentary because it explains the creation and the world build and basically a genesis story for Lord of the Rings and all the characters in the series. So it's really cool to see how, the story evolves all the way from the Silmarillion to, well, of course, The Hobbit, and then the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which I do have the rest here. So we have the Fellowship of the Ring, Two Towers, and the Return of the King. So these covers are so cool. I recently bought these books. I needed to highlight them, so I've actually done my fair share of highlighting. And I chose green to highlight, so I'm not sure if it shows up. But yeah, green is my color, and it's just so awesome to see, if I can pick up the book again and I can remember the notes, the parts that I really enjoyed, and keep track of some vocabulary that I find really incredible and amazing for, to replicate. So in my own writing as a filmmaker and a novelist. So anyway, before we geek out about all there is about the plots of these books, we're gonna finish the presentation. And I'm excited because it took me days to complete this. I didn't want to leave anything out. I wanted to do this topic justice because I'm just such a fan, and I'd have to say that out of all the books, the Silmarillion is my favorite by far. It's just so whimsical and magical, and it explains everything, and that to me is just so cohesive, how he created a world that has so much intrinsic logic and lore and its own philosophy. It's absolutely outstanding. And I think I said before in one of my previous streams that I was like, well, did Tolkien use many world mythologies or just a few? No, he used several. He used several world mythologies to build his world, not just a few. So I am just absolutely amazed at how complicated the story arc is. And hopefully today you'll see some, resources of inspiration that I've managed to write down, annotate, and keep for my own archives. And hopefully this is a shortcut for you as well if you're writing and if you're inspired by Tolkien's work and you think, oh, how in the world could I ever match that level of talent? Well, today's day and age we have ChatGPT, and that accelerates our ability to write stories, but back in the day there was no AI or computers, so the mastery behind creating that it's just there's not going to be any series that's ever going to top this because of the time and place that it was written, and that's so magical. So this will forever be an anchor for world history and civilization to look back upon and marvel at. So without further ado, join me in my presentation. I have a whole list of other books if you like, if you're wondering about who Tolkien was inspired by himself. I've got a list of recommendations that I also went ahead and made sure I read. So that was actually my strategy. I will tell you all about it. How about just a quick recap now? So my strategy was basically I had watched the films like everybody else, and and if you've seen the films, you probably got mixed up a lot like I did, and things probably aren't very cohesive in your mind right now if you've just seen the movies. So I took the journey to read the books myself. I thought, hey, I'm a filmmaker. The Lord of the Rings movies are by far these epic films in cinema. Nobody can underestimate how amazing they were in their time, and they still hold up. And if you've already seen the movies, what was I saying? Oh yeah, okay, well, I'm like, how can I make movies that great? Well, you can't without writing novels or at least reading them. So I journeyed upon reading them, and I'm so like amazed by what I've gathered, and it's taken me days to like get here, and I'm so excited. Okay, so it seems like I really want to move forward because we've got a lot to get through. This might be a long stream, you guys. I will have chat open behind me. I might switch around. Like, we're gonna do some quizzes. We're gonna watch parts of the movie. We might go over to YouTube. We might actually use ChatGPT for a few things. So yeah, it's a fun one, and of course it is New Year's, so at the end I will kind of keep track of how it is in New York. I think there's still 2 more hours until it's officially New Year's Eve, or New Year's in New York, so we can celebrate that. We can even celebrate like as the clock turns in different eras, parts of the states. Okay, y'all, so I was gonna say, oh yeah, I read all of the Lord of the Rings, right? But yeah, I didn't read them straight away. This is my last bit of my strategy that I just want to put forward if you're only gonna catch the intro. The last part of my strategy is that I didn't just go straight away to reading them. I actually went to what Tolkien was inspired by first. So I read that first, and it took me ages, but let me just show you the books really quick now so you get a glimpse, and then later on I'm going to show you more about them. But one second. Okay, the first one would be the Iliad and the Odyssey, which I keep always showing like this book because it basically inspired everything afterwards. It was written in, good Lord knows, like 700 BC. So Iliad means Troy, so you've probably seen the Troy movie, and the Odyssey. So you can already tell that the Lord of the Rings is really inspired by the Odyssey and Troy. Why? Okay, so it's Iliad, Troy because of war. So a lot of the Iliad is about the Trojan War, as you're familiar with the movie. That's basically that book. But then the Odyssey is about a journey. It's about a journey and adventure. So the Odyssey is a lot like Lord of the Rings, because in the Odyssey, spoiler alerts by the way, I forgot to put that right at the beginning. There's gonna be a lot of spoilers, so if you're not going to read the books or anything, maybe watch that. But if you are going to save the stream until after you've read it or seen it, or however, I mean, these books have been out for ages and the movies have been out for a long time now too, so I'm sure you're all fair game to like have some spoilers, but this might also be like some time to like resonate. So okay. I can't contain how my excitement. So basically the Odyssey also ends in a very similar way to the Lord of the Rings. So basically Lord of the Rings probably copied a lot of the Odyssey. A lot of the language, the terms, phrasing also is very similar to this book. And yeah, that's number one. Okay. Okay, this is just a short one. It's Hesiod. This is the story of Greek mythology, which is going to be really important to understand Lord of the Rings. Now, I wish I had like a physical copy of the Norse mythology, but also you're going to need that, and I have it in my notes, but yeah, if you can get a physical copy, that's really great too, because Norse mythology and Greek mythology are going to be your top two for Lord of the Rings. Okay, you're going to also need some Play-Doh because there's some Atlantis lore that I didn't expect in Lord of the Rings, but once you dig into it, now you can't unsee it. So, of course, and if you look it up, Tolkien was inspired by Play-Doh as well, so yeah. Of course, you're going to need a Holy Bible. I prefer the King James Version, but I'm not sure which Tolkien would have preferred. But yeah, this one has the ancient spellings. It kind of reminds me of the language in Lord of the Rings. It's that ancient thou, will, whither, whence language. So it's stunning and beautiful, and of course, a lot of the themes you're also going to see it in the Holy Bible. Okay, this I read online with you guys in my last stream, but I got the physical copy because it's astounding. This book is absolutely amazing. If you read the intro, it absolutely says that it was basically that J.R.R. Tolkien was inspired by Paradise Lost, because this book was written in the 1600s. So 1600s, Milton wrote this, and in Paradise Lost, you're going to see the drawn-out Genesis, and you're going to see the good and evil play out. And in order to understand Lord of the Rings and like the good and evil, you're going to really want to see what Paradise Lost has. And again, a lot of the language is very similar. Again. And of course, William Shakespeare. You're gonna find some themes quite familiar with Shakespeare. Obviously, these are English traditional writers, legendary, so of course. But I was surprised more than anything is that some of the love stories in Lord of the Rings are a lot like Romeo and Juliet, if you think about it. So there's that. And some of that, like, the aggression too, like, you know, in Romeo and Juliet, where there's like Montague versus Capulet, and it's like that kind of duel. That's also kind of, you kind of see that in Lord of the Rings. So you do need some Shakespeare, and that's about it for like the major books that you need. But I read all these first in order to acquaint myself with, you know, Tolkien's thinking, what he like was inspired by to get into the mindset of writing, and that really aided me. Like, I enjoyed Lord of the Rings so much more now knowing all the references, because I've been like, oh my god, that's like that, or that's like that. Now what Tolkien is a genius of is going above and beyond, is not only taking those scraps of information from other sources, but also just, you know, inventing his own and then interweaving all these plots and narratives and stories. So again, the Lord of the Rings starts with the Silmarillion. Unfortunately, it was completed after Tolkien passed away, so that's why it's edited by Christopher Tolkien. But nonetheless, Christopher did an amazing job of keeping everything pretty logical and fluent and intact. So you could pretty much say that Tolkien would have published this himself. And of course, all of the writing is Tolkien. Christopher just edited it together. Okay, so there's some pictures in this book, which I quite enjoy when books have pictures. And it's pretty simple, but it's a good chapter breaker. And that's also something that inspires me as like I'm now writing my own novels. It's like, how do I want to present my books, and is there opportunity for illustrations? Because that's going to take your content really far. I know that I remember things more. That's the main thing. I remember things more if I have an image attached to it. So I believe this is also a royalty-free online. So you can actually read this for free online on Internet Archives. So I would recommend you do that. I actually started reading it on the Internet Archives, and it has these amazing, awesome designs on it. So I recommend like that, but getting a physical copy and being able to, again, I was highlighting, being able to highlight is incredible. Okay, without further ado, I think I am ready to hit the next on this presentation. It's been a bit hectic. And of course, I don't expect anyone to join me right now because, well, obviously everyone is enjoying their New Year's Eve. And I don't blame you for being away. I actually just had a holiday where I wasn't really online much, so. Okay. I believe there's 3 of you, at least in the chat. So thanks for joining me regardless. And we'll see you in Playback if you join us later. Whew. All right. Now I don't know if I should put on my music thing one sec, cause like honestly, I feel like I'll have a better experience if I join you in the music. I might have to skip some tracks. Okay, cool. Amazing. Okay, I made this on Canva. I am proud of this presentation. I used some AI features and obviously some copyright images like off the movies, but this is all in fair use, and I tried where I could to generate those AI images for us. So, alright guys, I want to change the background while we look at this presentation just so it's a bit more fun, it's a bit more engaging that way. And welcome! Okay, so Lord of the Rings has many backdrops, many settings, and there's a lot going on. I hope that I can be your guide. Now, I am by no means an expert in this fandom. I only recently joined, like I just said. I used this holiday to catch up. So I'm presenting it hopefully in a fresh new light that maybe you've not thought of before. But maybe you have. It's either you're also a beginner like myself, or you're ages into the Lord of the Rings lore, you've read it several times, so there's going to be moments where I'll need to read the comments down below, see to what you guys think. Maybe I got something wrong, XYZ. But again, we're going to take some quizzes together, so that'll be fun. And they're going to be breaks, so the quizzes will be breaks throughout the presentation. Okay guys, thanks for joining me, and let's go. So, as I said, Lord of the Rings movies, I think we can all agree that we've all seen a movie or 2 or 3, probably a few times, right? Well, yeah, I've seen them, I think I want to say 3 or 4 times entirely, and I really enjoyed it. I just didn't remember it. Like every time I watched them, after a year or 2 years, I would completely forget what happened. And that became a habit with a lot of movies too. But look, I was like, I need to look into Lord of the Rings, and here we are. Okay. So the 6 movies, basically right now, there's gonna be more. I'd imagine they're either going to redo these movies in the future with new actors, or if, you know, they're gonna move on. They're already do the Rings of Power TV show. We're gonna talk briefly about that. And, but these are the classics, right? So, Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey, which this is all one book. this is all one book. They made 3 movies out of one book, right? Which is pretty cool, but I was commenting, like, they didn't make 3 movies out of Troy, so I don't know what their thought was on that, but honestly, it's, like, why not? It was back in the day where you had to wait forever, like, probably on VHS to find a movie, and so you needed movies. You needed movies back in those days. There weren't that many movies out yet. So, I can see why they made 3 of these. However, we know that there's no Silmarillion movies. No Silmarillion movies. So, why not? So, I googled why there's no Silmarillion movies, and it says that the Tolkien estate, I believe they own the rights, obviously, still, and they've just not granted the access to publish them via movies. So that's part of it. The other part is that you could say, well, at the end of the Silmarillion, I don't know if that will focus, but it says the Rings of Power, So the Rings of Power, to my understanding, is not a separate book. It's just the segment of the Silmarillion. So at the end of the Silmarillion, basically. And yeah, I love the Rings of Power. I tried to watch the show, but I couldn't get past episode 1. It was not what I expected. The characters were kind of rewritten, and unlike how they were in the book, so I didn't like that. I don't like when they change stuff from the books to the movies, which they did quite a lot. Specifically in The Two Towers, they changed a lot of the phrasing of how the novel was paced, and I actually haven't rewatched this one in a while, so I have it up. I have these movies up, so we're gonna watch a few segments of it live. Hopefully I don't get copyright struck, but again, we are not gonna watch it with audio. We're just gonna scrub through it for, you know, educational purposes. Okay, so again, there's no Silmarillion, so we just have these to work with, and I really enjoyed the Hobbit book more than I did the movies. I think it was more fun to leave it up to my imagination on what the dwarves looked like, what the dragon looks like. There's a lot more riddles and a lot more fun, lighthearted moments in the book that just didn't make it on screen. The dragon looks way scarier than it does in the movie. In the book, the dragon basically talks in riddles and stuff like that. So obviously, it's more of a children's novel. But I love that Tolkien manages to perfect that the voice that he has from The Hobbit to the other novels, because I expected Lord of the Rings to get darker, and while it does, it still maintains a lot of that innocence and lightheartedness and that hope that is pervasive throughout The Hobbit, if that makes sense. So well done on him on keeping a consistent voice throughout so many books. I'm curious what you guys thought of the movies, what your favorite moments were below. Let me know. Okay, so here's some movie book mix-ups, plot situations that I got confused, and of course spoilers. So again, these are situations where I'm gonna leave this off for now. I'm actually more excited to talk to you guys than listen to music right now. But basically, okay, so let's see. This is really funny. These are things that when I had watched the movies and I was like, I swear that was that, but that wasn't that when I read the books. And like I got the names, I processed the names, I looked up the names individually. I started realizing, okay, so when I watched the movies, I thought he was Sauron. That's not Sauron, that's Saruman, and I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, you guys. That's Sauron. And I also, like, we're not done. All of those are Sauron. So So Sauron is all of those. He basically shapeshifts, especially in the Silmarillion. Okay, so in the Silmarillion, it talks about Morgoth and Sauron a lot. Oh yeah, and there's also another evil guy, so that Sauron's not the most evil. You'll learn about him later. But he's not the most evil, but he is in the Silmarillion, and of course he's in the Rings of Power. So Sauron has many forms, and that's another thing that you're just gonna have to deal with if you're a Tolkien fan, because they just have many forms, and a lot of them have many different names too, which is funny. Okay, so Sauron, what we're dealing with is a very, very wizardly. He's like a wizard level deity. He's basically like a counterpart to Gandalf. So is Saruman. They're both the counterpart to Gandalf, basically. They're like a wizard, but he transforms from like that wizard person in that middle to then that the really scary looking guy, and then he's also a werewolf, and he's also like a vampire. Yeah, there's like a moment where Sauron glitches and he becomes a vampire, and there's a few other vampires in the Silmarillion, so fun to know. So yeah, Saruman is originally good, but he defects, so he's kind of like pretty pervasive throughout the Lord of the Rings series. He's kind of like the ultimate boss at the end after they've defeated the two. They basically defeat the really old guy, and then they defeat Sauron. But Saruman remains till the end, so he's important, definitely. But okay, yeah, that's not Sauron. No. Okay. All right. Another thing I got confused is, yeah, there's two versions of Bilbo, of course, that you need to know. One is young Bilbo. Young Bilbo Baggins, in particular, his name is Bilbo Baggins. He's basically your guide to the Shire. He's the first you get to know in the Shire, and his estate that you all guys know, that Hobbit hole. And okay, so he owns that place. He's pretty wealthy, but he gets a lot more wealth through his journey in The Hobbit. Why? Because he rescues some diamonds. Okay, and he gets to keep some of those diamonds. So he has an inheritance, right? Bilbo. So yeah, young Bilbo, Hobbit. Old Bilbo, Lord of the Rings. Bilbo is still in the Lord of the Rings. Bilbo is still... He's not really in the Two Towers, but he does return in the last one. So you do see Bilbo quite a lot, like through the entire journey. You could also say that Bilbo basically wrote Lord of the Rings in the inside of the world. Like inside of the world, Bilbo is always writing, because he's literally writing these stories. He's writing the stories of The Hobbit and of the Lord of the Rings. There and Back Again, it's called. So he's basically a main character of... You can't have the Lord of the Rings without Bilbo. He basically started it all. So, young and old. Two different actors. Okay, the next one is that I thought that Frodo destroyed the ring. Like I had watched the movies probably like 3 times, and I still, like, the last clip of my memory is then we got Mount Doom. The last clip in my memory is Frodo destroying the ring, and I remember that scene in particular where he dangles the ring, and I thought he just dropped it. That does not happen. No. Gollum destroys the ring. That's a major spoiler. That's I warned you guys. But yeah, Gollum destroys the ring. So where did that go in my mind? I totally forgot that. And well, here we are now. We're getting it right. And it's interesting how it plays out that Gollum destroys it, because it's like the final scene, and basically Frodo puts on the ring, and Gollum fights him for it while he's invisible, and he basically tears off like a finger with the ring on it, and Gollum falls with the ring, so that's how it ends. That's how it ends, and it's actually such a major plot twist, and it's very interesting. Okay, Aragorn and Faramir. I got these guys mixed up. Also in Boromir, I got them all mixed up. I thought they were all kind of the same person, so down here, all kind of look the same. We're gonna talk about some casting issues. I don't think that Aragorn and Faramir got casted correctly. I think that's a popular concern or criticism about the movies that a lot of book readers had, so we'll talk about that. But Boromir in particular, bad guy. Although he's he's an heir as well. He dies in battle, so he's kind of irrelevant at some point. But he does defect. He's kind of like a snitch kind of personality. So we end up with only two mortal men, good guys, which is Aragorn and Faramir. But they get so confusing and mixed up, as we just talked about. So we will try to fix those situations. Alright, some memes that we all remember from the movies is clearly, after all, why not? Why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I keep the ring? He's debating whether to keep the ring because of the pull, because of the temptation of the ring, that powerful, I don't know. Obviously, like, there's like a flash in their mind of worship for the ring. Then we have Boromir saying one does not simply walk into Mordor. It's like one does not simply walk into Mordor. You shall not pass, which is such a like warp in my mind what happens. I always remember there's like this cave scene, but that all got jumbled up too. Then for Frodo, when he's going into the Black Gate at Mordor, they're taking the hobbits to Isengard. I watched like a behind the scenes, and they were telling like how that became a meme during the filming of the movies, second and third part in that era. Okay, and this one I don't really remember, but when I googled it, that's what came up, and that's a classic, Sam and Frodo. Alright, let's do our first quiz. So let's get to it. I was really keen on doing this live with you guys, so you guys can see some questions. They might be really difficult, but we'll start with the Silmarillion. Okay, so the Silmarillion trivia facts. Can you guys see it? Let me go like that. Okay, who are the children of Ilúvatar's adoption? Okay, right off the bat, I'm not sure who wrote this because I do not really remember some sort of adoption. But I'm gonna say, if anything, I would say elves and men. Oh no, dwarves are, because he kind of adopts the dwarves. Okay. Who or what is Ormol? Wow. How about, like, really difficult? Guys, I don't know what Ormol is. An elf? It's either an elf or a house. I want to say it's an elf. Is this, like, live? Oh, here's a hint. Thanks for just giving it me. I'm pretty sure. Southern Lamp of the Valar. No, I don't think that. It might be the house. Wow, guys, this is a really complex one. I'm sorry for getting you guys such a difficult one off the bat. And not even I can understand this. And I thought I was a nerd already. Okay, what is Alcaronda's? A mighty ship. I want to say it's a great castle. How did our... I know he's from Numenor. He drowned. I'm going to say he was drowned. What is the dwarfish name of Nargothrond? Oh my gosh. The dwarves made the Noglamir for King Thingol. Maybe. Guys, no way. This is ridiculous. This is too difficult. Let's see, like, this is the most... No. Well, I got the first one right. Okay, no, that one's too difficult. Let's do Lord of the Rings instead. How do you play this? Where do hobbits live? This one's too easy now. Where do hobbits try to take the Ring of Power? Mordor. Name these creatures. They're the ring wraiths. Which of these is not a race? Imps. Where is this place? I want to say it's Rohan. What is the name of the Dark Lord? They made this too easy. What animal saves Frodo and Sam from Mount Doom? Oh, that's easy. Eagle. What is the name of the talking trees? Ents. What is Legolas? A hop and oh no, elf. Gray and white. 10 out of 10. Alright, well there we go. This is now more complicated, so I will end the quiz now and we will come back. So, as you can see, some of them were too complicated, and oh my god, we're gonna have to find an easier Silmarillion one, see if I can pass it, because what the heck. Okay, speaking of, so the Silmarillion, as we discussed, and the Lord of the Rings. Do you know what a Silmarillion is? If you had asked me this a while ago, I wouldn't have known. Can you answer it? I gave you guys a hint on the side of the screen. Over here. Yes, they are jewels. There's 3 jewels in particular, and from my understanding, they get shaped a few different ways, from like a circlet to then a crown. They also just kept in a treasure chest. They like keep moving them from artifact to artifact. But I think of it mostly as some sort of circlet crown. And of course, the ring. So this is the first thing that is really unique and obviously special to Lord of the Rings is these enchanted gems. And a lot of people just don't know that the Silmarillion exists. Like, there's a whole story about another gem, basically. So, we're gonna read all about it. I made this artwork, by the way. Okay, so there's lots to see, but I want to talk about the Rings of Power in the Silmarillion. We talked about that being the end of the chapter, the Rings of Power, and there's that TV show, right, the Rings of Power. Okay, well, there's some numerology, which is so cool. Like, who knew? There's a lot of you fans probably do know, but yeah, basically there's one ring to rule them all. There's 3 elven rings, and they're with Galadriel, Elrond, and actually Gandalf also has one of the elven rings. It was gifted to him. Then we have 7 rings for the dwarf lords, and 9 rings for the men of power. So we got the numbers 1, 3, 7, 9, and I was told by my best friend, basically, he's like definitely a Tolkien, like the scholar. I would say he's like a Tolkien scholar. Knows lots about Tolkien, and basically, yeah, it's because of them I'm so intrigued about the world of Tolkien and the Lord of the Rings. But they made it to me aware about this riddle. So I'm sharing it with you guys because I thought, wow, if you're into numerology, this is really interesting how this pans out. So 1, 3, 7, 9. And The Hobbit was published in 1937. So The Hobbit was published in 1937, and there's 1379 numerology, but also how interesting. Tolkien passes in the year 1973. 1973. So that's really interesting how maybe there's organic, numerology in play here. It's interesting how like the world and how we inhabit it and the numbers that we leave behind in our work somehow is so cohesive into our own lives. Okay, well, did you know about these? Because I didn't. I always thought there was only one ring, really. But let me tell you something about these rings that also might clear something up for you guys if you're new. So I always wonder, okay, now after knowing about these rings of power, my next question is like, well, why do they only destroy the first one? Why don't they need to destroy all of them? And there's actually a really simple question, so a simple answer. So the simple answer is that only Sauron's ring, only the Ring of Power, was only made by Sauron. So Sauron was the only one to make that ring. He didn't make the other rings. Sauron did not make the other rings. He basically pressured these other lords to make these rings. So he pressures all these other, like these elves, these dwarves, and these men to make these rings. So technically these rings are not inherently evil because these rings were not made with evil dominion in mind. And these rings are therefore not something that you should be worried about because they don't act in any way to control anyone else, okay? They're just there to enhance your natural kind of powers or affinity, but they're not there to like rule other people's minds or anything like that, okay? So the only ring, and this was allegedly in secret, it was forged in secret to control the other rings without their awareness. So that's why it's evil, and that's the only ring that they need to destroy, again in Mount Doom. So that's the reason why they only take that one ring to the Mount Doom. And all the other rings after this one is destroyed basically are rendered either useless or they're just not a threat at all whatsoever, if that makes sense. So yeah, hope that cleared it up. Now, it's important to like understand the plot by the topic of the gemstones. So the fact is, in the Silmarillion, right? Before the Rings of Power, like right in the beginning, not the end, we just talked about the end, but I'm talking about the beginning now. The beginning now is telling you about the Silmarils. And the Silmarils, right? It's either Silmarils, Silmarilli, or Silmarillion. I believe Silmarils is easier to use, so we'll use that. So the Silmarils is an interesting story that is forgotten about because not a lot of people pick this book up, or they just don't know about it. So here I am marketing this book. Hopefully you read it. It's a lot more interesting than a lot of the other ones. In my opinion, it's my favorite one. So you're gonna love it too. But basically the story of this first ring, first crown, diamonds, enchanted diamonds, is that they're crafted by this elf, okay? He's like a very noble elf. He's basically the most artistic of his kind. And he crafts these with the light of the world. And at the time of the light of the world in this era, it's like this happens before basically like in Eden. It's kind of like it happens in think of it happening in Eden. Like you've got Eden right behind me. So it's happening in paradise. It's happening right in the immortal lands. It's happening, and evil has yet to really exist as we know it in Lord of the Rings. So the Silmarillion is basically the spawn of evil, but it's not as evil as the ring. Why? So the Silmarillion was actually crafted with love, in a sense. The elf was not inherently evil. The elf that crafted it was using the light of the world, basically charming it with the light of the world. And basically it's like these two ancient trees that had this eternal light that the Silmarillion, the three of them, those three diamonds, the three Silmarillion, the Silmarils, were enchanted with that light, okay? So they're actually quite a positive heirloom. They're a enchanted, positive, radiant light force of an item. And of course they're adored and worshipped nonetheless. Now, it can't control anything. It can just only influence your own power again. So what ends up happening is that you can already see that the elf that crafted them was already starting to obsess over them, and what happens is that they get lost. Basically, someone steals them. The main bad guy steals them. And the bad guy basically steals them and reforges them into his own evil crown. And his reign of the land is during that time when he has stolen the rings, the Silmarillions. He's stolen the Silmarillions. He's putting them in the crown. He is basically this evil overlord that has the light of the world within his crown. And story by story, or one by one, the Silmarillions are basically taken out of the crown in these other fight scenes. And whoever does that becomes like this global hero because they've ousted, the potential for this guy to have this power. And at the end of it, spoiler alert, the end of it is basically that the good guys do win. The good guys manage to get back the three Silmarils. And one goes in the sky, one goes in the ocean, and one of them is in fire or something happens. It's very like nature, earth, water, wind, things like that. And one of them becomes the shooting stars, the northern star. So one of them becomes the northern star. So the deities kind of, the gods, the good people kind of win. And so that's the end of that. The first bad guy is defeated, basically. So that's Morgoth. Morgoth is the first bad guy. But Morgoth corrupts Sauron, and Sauron no longer cares about these because Sauron realizes that they've been like dispersed through the sky. Like one's literally now the northern star, one's sunk in the bottom of the ocean, the other one I forget. But basically he's given up on these. He's like, well, I don't even want them. Okay. But now he thinks of this idea to forge this evil ring. So now this is completely evil. So do you get the difference? Do you get the difference that the Silmarillion were crafted with love, with the light of the world, and the ring of power was crafted with dominion, evil, control, and mind? Okay. I hope I've explained it right. It's beautiful. It's like such a stunning story from beginning to end. And yeah. So now we know the Silmarillion, basically the elf forges the Silmarils, and you get that image over there. Evil demigod Morgoth steals the elven Silmarils. Then the evil corrupts the elves, and there's some kinslaying, which I talked about was like Shakespeare. Some elves getting angry at each other, trying to recover the Silmarils, and that basically spawns evil. Evil's very pervasive now since that whole fight breaks down. And then even though the Silmarils are recovered in the end, they get them back, and the bad guy is defeated. The very bad guy is basically booted out into the void, so he's defeated in the void. But evil still prevails with Sauron. So then the second plot regarding the gemstone is then Sauron forging the One Ring and the Rings of Power. So you get Silmarillion Rings of Power. 3 for the elves, 7 for the dwarves, 9 for the men. What does that say? So basically the One Ring, so good temporarily wins. They get the One Ring back and it gets lost. They defeat Sauron, but the evil spirit of Sauron still prevails. Kind of like how Voldemort's spirit, like he gets defeated, but his spirit still lives on. So that's what happens here. Like Sauron gets defeated for one time, but then his spirit still lives on. So Frodo then succeeds in that whole operation with Gollum to destroy the ring, thus destroying Sauron for good, basically. But evil still prevails again through Saruman. We remember Saruman, the guy that I used to get confused with. Okay, then we have The Hobbit. The Hobbit is primarily concerned about the Arkenstone. The Arkenstone, you should probably know about it too, so that's another plot. The Arkenstone is forged by the Dwarf King, but he basically discovers this because they have like mines. He discovers this really special stone and he forges it for himself, puts it on his throne, but then the dragon invades and basically destroys his castle, destroys his mansions, and the the Arkenstone gets lost. And then what happens is that the Arkenstone, again, the dragon kind of is like hoarding it. But then Bilbo finds the Arkenstone upon defeating the dragon, and he kind of uses the Arkenstone to wager it for a peace offering, because there's some troubles that he runs into with people are upset about who keeps all the wealth after they defeat the dragon. So he kind of uses the Arkenstone to make sure that everyone is off on good terms, which brings forward that Bilbo Baggins is an amazing person, Hobbit. Bilbo is a great example of a good person because you can tell that he's not in it for the wealth, even though he gets wealthier by saving the jewelry from the dragon and so. His main concern isn't the money, and he hopes that people aren't going to fight each other to keep the wealth. So, yeah. Okay, then the Fellowship of the Ring. You're gonna want to know about the mithril chainmail. It's like mithril is a type of metal that's the dwarves forge that is stronger than gold, I believe. So that's what Frodo wears. Basically, Bilbo is gifted it, and Bilbo gives it to Frodo. And so this is like this very precious metal, which is a really genius idea to like invent a metal in your world or universe, and have these qualities or properties that are magical. And then elves forge several magical things that you probably should be aware about too. So Galadriel's mirror, we're going to talk about in reference to Harry Potter. But she also, I believe it's her or Arwen, one of them, has a file of light as well. It's enchanted, like the light, basically. The light wins the end of the day, helps defeat a lot of the bad guys. And the elven cloaks are also special because they're kind of like invisibility cloaks. They have very special power in that sense. And there's probably more that I'm forgetting. Okay, so a deep dive into the Silmarillion is we talked about the Silmarillion. This is my depiction of the elf who forges the Silmarillion. There's 3 on his, because it kind of talks about him wearing them out, and this is how I imagine he wears them out. So the popular themes in this book series is obviously, we're going to start with the Silmarillion is, I painted this scene, I made it. It reminds me of the Genesis story in Tolkien's Silmarillion. It's very much like, this one god creates a portal, and all these like archangels basically kind of hop into it. It's like go down into it, So it kind of feels like some sort of, they go into a simulation kind of thing. This you're gonna see is huge parallels to Gnosticism and Nordic lore. So that's really exciting. We're gonna talk about that. But one thing I love about this is that starting it right away, having your God kind of create everything in your world, he is 100% good. Like, this God, he may create evil, but this God is 100% good. So you know through the entire series, after reading that intro, is that you know that whatever happens, this good guy, he created evil in order for good and it's basically for balance, for that duality to exist, but God still it's basically like good will always defeat the bad, because bad is lesser than good, if that makes sense. Fate and free will, again, is a huge topic of, like, if they do drop into a simulation, it kind of talks about the one God. The one God is the only one that knows the future, that knows how everything will end. He is the only one that knows how everything will end. That's literally what is said. So if he knows everything that is already going to end, does he know the fate of the universe? Does he know how everything plays out? So is it all fate? Is it all everything is devised? Or do these characters, is this story about free will? That's an interesting one. Immortal, of course. The elves are immortal. The wizards are immortal. The archangels are immortal. And then you have men, mortal. Hobbits, mortal. Dwarves, mortal. And so on. Hope and despair. He yields to this perfectly. It's like, but it doesn't drag on. Like, in my mind, when I was like, before I was gonna read these books, I was like, oh man, like, the Lord of the Rings is going to drag. Like, I keep hearing about how he uses so much detail, goes on and on about this and that. But honestly, it's such a masterpiece. Like, he edited it down to perfection, because he goes from the hills, the extremes of there's so much hope or there's so much darkness, but right when there's so much darkness and it's at the very end, like, out of that good appears, or this magical event or luck, so you're never gonna feel like you're too down. And that's amazing. The way he, like, paced it is just unbelievable. And one huge part of it that I really enjoy as a writer is that kind of, like, the joke within, like, basically Bilbo writing. There's several scenes, and especially in the book, of Bilbo writing the story down. So there's kind of scenes of this idea that, like, history repeats, people or generations forget. And then this whole ordeal of, like, Bilbo making sure to write down his adventures and passing it on to Frodo to continue his work. And Frodo ends up basically adding a whole bunch to it, right? Adding the Lord of the Rings to it and signing it off. So that's really special, these themes that he wrote. Okay, this is now ages. So there's how many ages? Oh, there's only 4, but I put 5 on accident. Okay, so basically there's 4 ages. I tried to do as best as I could. There's a lot going on. There's 4 ages, but it's kind of like how the books are structured, right? So the Silmarillion and the Rings of Power are in the first age. And these ages are when God creates good and evil. Evil demigod Morgoth steals those Silmarils. The elves are corrupted, and then they get them back, but evil prevails. And then the Rings of Power is like the fall of Atlantis, the elves of the Rings of Power, and capturing the One Ring, but it gets lost kind of thing. And then the second, third, and fourth era, you're going to see like the Bilbo's adventure, Frodo's adventure, and the fourth era in particular is the Return of the King. The Shire, gets restored. There's many weddings, like everyone gets married, like Aragorn, Eowyn, and Sam gets married. And then Bilbo and Frodo go to Valinor, that very, very famous scene at the end where they go on the boat. Book characters who I liked, and some spoilers here as well. So I really enjoyed out of the Silmarillion. I loved Beren and Luthien. I think they were basically Tolkien and his wife Edith, because I looked up the grave that Tolkien and his wife are both buried at, and on the grave it says Tolkien, and it says Beren, and then it says Edith, and it says Luthien, which is stunning. Like, it's such a romantic gesture. I don't know any other romantic author like this, or just guy in general, that would dedicate so much to his wife. Not only her character, but Arwen is inspired by his wife as well. And I'm assuming these other women were kind of just like other parts of his wife that he admired. So I'd say this is literally the most romantic, traditional, wholesome romance novel ever. It's more romantic than I thought, and I just love how like PG-13 it is as well. And yeah, again, the Shakespeare element is unavoidable. So there's also some bloodlines going on. So Beren is a male, and he's also with Luthien. So from my understanding, their son is Arendelle. Arendelle is important because he takes part in stealing back one of the Silmarils. He basically is the North Star. He basically goes in a chariot and puts one of the Silmarils in the North Star. So you can already see, like, Beren also steals one of the Silmarils. Luthien helps him steal one of these Silmarils. So they're basically, these three defeat the primordial bad guy. So these three are kind of like the top heroes. And the dog actually helps defeat Sauron and Morgoth in the first part. And then so these characters are not in any of the movies. We don't know what they would actually look like, but these are like AI images of what it says in the book, of like their hair colors and things like that. So Arendelle's mare is Elwing. Then somewhere below here is Elrond. He's an elf. That's pure elf. And then his wife, who's not in the movies either. Celebrimbor and Galadriel. Lady Galadriel, she's stunning. I think they cast her perfectly. And then Aragorn, again, I was talking about how I don't think he got casted well. In my mind, when I was reading the book, I think he comes up basically in the first one, I think. So when he comes up, Strider, I imagine him more like a Pirates of the Caribbean, like Jack Sparrow. That's why when I did the AI, this is kind of what I look. Oh, sorry, this guy. This is what I look for in Strider. This is basically how I would imagine him. And I'm like shocked that the way he turned out. He's a lot more serious in the movie. We'll see in a second what they actually look like in the movie. I made a little slide here. And then, oh my god, Faramir! I loved Faramir's character. In fact, he's probably one of my favorite characters in the book series. In The Return of the King, he's probably one of the main characters. There's a chat now. Sorry, my chat box. Oh, nice. Well, nice to meet you. Thanks for joining the stream. That you're nerding out here with us, but hopefully you have some things to share about your knowledge as well. So thanks. Okay, so what I was saying is, like, when I was reading The Return of the King, also the Two Towers, I think it actually happens in the Two Towers at the end. Faramir resists the ring, and he is basically like this amazing, like, to me he's more wholesome in the quote that he says about, like, we are truth seekers, we don't get corrupted. So he is tempted by the ring, like by Frodo having it in front of him, and in contrast to Boromir gets corrupted by it just by seeing it. Boromir wants to steal the ring. His brother Faramir is the opposite. He is like tempted by it, but it doesn't faze him and doesn't do anything. So he's like eternal good. In the movie, they completely switched up and like made him actually like more corrupt. So I didn't like that. Also, they casted him super awful. Like, to me, he was super handsome. Like, the end of the Return of the King is basically the scene of Faramir and Eowyn. And Eowyn is stunning. Eowyn is down here, but you're gonna see her in the movies. But look what ended up happening. It just doesn't even make sense here. Okay. Of course, we don't have these as movie characters, so we don't know what they would look like. But Elrond is really cast well. His wife wasn't in the movies for some reason. Celebrimbor, unmemorable character. Galadriel, super memorable character. Stunning. I think she was the most well casted. Aragorn, again, just looks bored out of his mind. He's a lot more playful in the books, like funny, a lot more like cool, edgy, and in the movie he's a lot more like stubborn and straight, like, and I'm not a fan. Arwen was also not memorable. She arguably doesn't do that much anyway in the book series. Nothing like Luthien. Like, Luthien actually fights and steals back the diamond. Arwen doesn't really do anything. She just kind of waiting until Aragorn shows that he's like this amazing king until she can marry him. So it's kind of like a maiden in the background. And Faramir, look what he ends up being. Like, in my mind, he looks like this, right? This. And he ends up looking like Lord Farquaad, blonde version. Who knows? Eowyn, however, was cast really well. Eowyn's one of my favorite characters too, because she's immortal, she's a human, and she, as a female, has this bravery and strength and is like traditional feminism that is so endearing to like see how Tolkien portrayed women as these like powerful, like she specifically says like, I don't want to be in a cage, like put me on the battlefield. She actually does go on the battlefield eventually, so she's awesome. And then here's some quotes. Okay, so again, the Silmarillion, that one quote to rule them all from the Silmarillion is, "No theme may be played that hath not its uttermost source in me." So that basically means that it doesn't matter what happens evil in the series, like, no theme may be played that hath not its uttermost source in me. That means that good is fundamentally the father of everything. Good is original, good is source, good is untainted, good is the all-powerful, good is the omnipresent, good is God in Tolkien's universe. And evil is beneath him. He created evil. So evil's beneath. Evil cannot be as pure as source. It cannot be as powerful as source. Because no theme may be played that hath not its uttermost source in me. And he says that. God says that to the primordial demon, Morgoth. So how badass that, like, Eru, his name is Eru, the one god, Eru the One, in the Silmarillion. He's basically God. So Eru the One is creating all these archangels. It's kind of like the story of Lucifer. He creates Lucifer as this archangel, but instead of Lucifer, his name is Morgoth. Actually, his name is Melkor. Like, it's Melkor first. Yeah, okay, we'll start with Melkor. So Melkor is this archangel that, he's like Lucifer. And God is Eru. So Eru the One kind of like congregates everyone. And Lucifer is in that congregation, aka Melkor. And he basically tells Melkor, no theme may be played that hath not its uttermost source in me, meaning you, evil guy, Melkor, you're just me. Like, you are beneath me. Like, you are lesser than me. So, the worst bad guy in Lord of the Rings series, the primordial evil guy, is like beneath the all-powerful one god. So if that's not comforting from the very start, I don't know what is. Like, it doesn't matter what peril, like what anxiety you have going in to read all this war stuff. If you know that all of it in the end, that good prevails, then you're set. Like, that's amazing. Like, what a way to start off a series, honestly. Like, I just love the way it's written too, that hath. Okay, now The Hobbit, okay, The Hobbit is, I love Gollum's character, obviously. It likes riddles, perhaps it does. Riddles were all he could think of. So there's a whole scene where, like, Gollum interacts with Bilbo, and they're, you know, like, there's this whimsical, like, riddles back and forth, and that also happens with the dragon later on. Also, there's a lot of parlay, like, you know, in the Pirates of the Caribbean where Elizabeth is like, oh, I need to offer parlay with the pirates. In my mind, I'm like, Pirates of the Caribbean was so genius for that. Like, how did they even think of that? Here we are with, like, Lord of the Rings, where, like, the characters are offering parlay every, like, 3 or 4 chapters. Like, yeah, parlay is, very, if you don't remember, it's like a treat. It's like, it doesn't matter if war is happening. Like, parlay is this right to, like, speak to your opponent regardless. Catholic influence shines through, but still subtle enough to pass the layman. Yeah, Catholic influence, but we're gonna see how Gnostic influence is actually, like, to me, the most astounding influence in Tolkien's work. Even though he was a devout Catholic, I'm assuming he just, like, read about all of the world religions. He was kind of like a theologist, philologist, so yeah. But it's really cool what we're gonna find out. Okay, Fellowship is this book. The Fellowship, let's see what my favorite quote was. Oh, obviously the gates of Maya. Oh gosh, I can't remember. I want to say it's Maya. Moira. Oh my gosh. Wherever Gandalf basically falls down and has to fight the Balrog, which is, the Balrog is like that demon made out of fire. Kind of looks like just a giant fire that he has to fight. He falls in the caves. I think it's a Moira. But before they open it, there's like these riddles above the door, and the riddle, which this is like a really cool tattoo idea. Like, if I was gonna get a tattoo for the Lord of the Rings, this would be an idea. Is it on the gates? It says "Speak, friend, and enter," and then Gandalf is like reading that, and then he's like, "Words, phrases, and riddles hold their own power." So yeah, it's like so interesting how he uses that as like Easter eggs. The two towers. So the two towers, again, I like Faramir's quote, but I hate the way he was portrayed. So if you can think of it more like this guy. If you can think of him saying it instead of this guy, that's better. I really did not picture Lord Farquaad. This is Faramir. Faramir is he's one of the good mortal men. There's few good mortal men out there. You gotta get them right. So, think of this of Faramir, and he says in the Two Towers, he says, when he is basically like in front of the ring, he says, "We are truth speakers. We boast seldom and then perform or die in the attempt," which is awesome. Basically meaning that that ring isn't gonna tempt me. And then the Return of the King is, of course, Eowyn's character, like I was just talking about. Oh gosh. I can ride and wield blade, and I do not fear either pain or death, which is amazing. For a woman to say that, it's like, what? That's so cool. Mine's of Moria. Thank you. Is it Mines of Moria or Mines of Moria? That is exactly it. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Hey, Sports Gamachia! Catching up. Aragorn was recast at the last second before production started. It was originally going to be Stuart Townsend playing Aragorn. No way, that's hilarious. Okay, that makes way more sense. I was like, honestly, this guy just like doesn't feel like he's committed to the role. Aragorn. This guy he seems too like bored out of his mind. It was like, hello, you're on the coolest movie. Like, Orlando Bloom launched his career on this as Legolas. Like, where did this guy go? He's the main character. He's the Return of the King, and the king just like completely fades into obscurity. Sorry, he's probably actually quite famous, but okay, this is like super nerd stuff now, like very, very much, okay, if you're writing and you're thinking of emulating Tolkien, these are some words, the top words that you need to use, okay? You need to use Lord, obviously. Air is a good one. Air is also in like the Harry Potter series. Yeah, if you remember, like the heir of gosh, what is it? The heir of Gryffindor or the heir of Slytherin. Like they have these different artifacts. Okay, Lore Master was one that I was like, I don't even know what that is. But a lot of the kings are like, they consult lore masters in the Lord of the Rings. So I'm assuming it's like a profession where it's like you're kind of like a prophetic person. You're kind of like a magician. So someone who like the king calls on to like recite history, or I don't know. You could probably like think of ideas of what they might look like. Counsel is a major one. Like they're always counseling. Like you just need to make your characters counsel all the time, and you will have something very much quite Lord of the Rings. Of course, a fellowship, you could probably use that word. I don't even think it's royal copyright protected. I think you can use the word fellowship, and he uses also the company, so it's either like the fellowship are going places or the company are going places. So that's right. Summons is another one. So here's the way it's used. So we rode as swiftly as we might when your summons came. That to me is like very regal. It's very like ancient times. You got people on horses. You're congregating from city to city. Things like that. Raiment is beautiful. I hadn't even thought of this word, but obviously it's like an old archaic word. Raiment means clothing, so like any article of clothing. I like especially when he talks about the raiment of the elves. So it says like her raiment glittered like stars, but her eyes were gray. So raiment is also like, just use that. Smote should be also up there. Like it could be number one. Smote. He's always talking about smote. There's smote in every chapter, and it's got quite of a range. I'm not entirely sure what it means. In my mind, it means something like burning. I should probably like double check. But it's something like smote hilt of his sword, smote it to the ground. But another way he uses is the beauty of it smote his heart. So in my mind, I'm picturing like burning. And also very old word, very beautiful, underused in this day and age. Haste, top one. You can't not use haste. Like haste here, haste there. We seek that land in haste. What is your haste? Basically it means like how fast are you going? How much of a hurry are you in? Like get going. Yonder realm is so beautiful. So in the yonder realm, beyond mortal reach. That's a quote. Spoke the password. Again, we talked about riddles, but there's specifically a part where it says the password is for those who have the right to enter. Speak it, and the gate will open for you. It came to pass, and so it came to pass. That's based. It came to pass that as the days grew longer, the fellowship journeyed on. And so it came to pass. I'm assuming that's like mega Bible, like I'm assuming that's a Bible reference right there. Like, because in the Bible it's always like, and then it came to pass that so and so and so and so. So. Ever and anon. I'm not really sure what that means, but I ever and then, ever and then never, ever and anon. I don't know if it's ever and anon, but I'm assuming it's that. So hither and thither that way. Whence dwelt, legend seldom spoken, light of the torches, forgotten rhymes, words of the seer. Oh, I already have that. I have that one twice. And vanished into the night. Stunning language that you can rip. If you're not using the same sentence, you can still use these words in your own writing. So use them. I'm sure he clearly used some from the Bible. He clearly took some from the Odyssey. He clearly took some from Paradise Lost. So these are yours to use. So the inspiration, of course, we talked about the Greek book that I have, the Theogony. That's super important. Like, probably the oldest that he's using is Hesiod's Theogony. And this is going to tell you about, like, right away, it just says the son of Zeus, Hera, like all of the gods and goddesses of Greek Pantheon. Okay, this is telling you the back-to-back story, and it was written in 700 AD, I want to say. 700 BC. The Nag Hammadi is the Gnostic textbook. It's like the 200 AD. Nag Hammadi, I don't have a physical copy, but there's a free online version. And I'd say, like, as a Gnostic myself, like, I was surprised how much of Tolkien's legendarium is actually Gnostic lore. Like, you're gonna see some charts that I made, but you'll definitely see there. And then, of course, Poetic and Prose era Eddas, I'm pretty sure was like 600 AD, 1200 AD, 13, around, it might even be like 1300 AD, is the Norse. So as you can see, Gnostic is way older than Norse, but they have very, very similar. And then Celtic, he took some names, like, I believe like Gandalf was the name, either from Norse or Celtic. And of course Catholic and some other like rogue, like Finnish, I don't know, Zoroastrian, like other examples. Also like Buddhist, I'm sure. So as we spoke about like the other books that it was inspired by, was like the Iliad and the Odyssey for sure. Again, the way it ends in the Odyssey is very similar to how the Return of the King ends. Like, after the defeat of the ring, Frodo and Sam go back to the Shire, but the Shire is in a mess. Saruman has taken over the Shire. Like, their journey is not over. Like, the battle's not over after they destroy the ring. Like, they still have to go. They go home. The Shire is a mess, and they have to like basically boot out all these like criminals that have overrun the Shire. So that's how the Return of the King ends. That's also how the Odyssey ends. In the Odyssey, he takes his journey, he goes to the Trojan War. On his way back, he keeps getting lost, he keeps getting stuck at sea. But mind you, when he comes home, all these criminals are on his house, and he has to basically kick all these criminals out. So he's come back from this insane journey only to find his house and his whole town up in cahoots because he's been gone. So very much I could see how he took that idea of like that ending from the Odyssey. And if you read the Odyssey, you're just gonna appreciate Tolkien so much more. Definitely. Beowulf, I don't have a physical archive. I wish I did. I love the I've read it online, but it's obviously like the dragon lore book, and there's another dragon book called Saga of the Volsungs. I believe it's like a Nordic story. Obviously, Grimm's fairy tales will predate a lot of this. So a lot of like the enchanted objects, heirlooms, magic spells, runes. A lot of that was kind of dabbled in Grimm's fairy tales. King Arthur, you're gonna get a lot of like the Fellowship, like the English, British lore. And Paradise Lost is gonna blow your mind away if you haven't read it, because it's basically like it's a continuation of the Bible. It's a deep dive into Genesis. It's a deep dive into the creation of Eden, evil. You know that whole story of Lucifer being cast out, how I said, oh gosh, it's so similar to like the creation of the Silmarillion. Well, he probably got it from Paradise Lost, I would say, definitely. Because in Paradise Lost, oh, there's photos! I can show you guys! I'm so excited. There's a bunch of photos in here. Some I might have to censor, because there's like obviously Garden of Eden stuff in here. I think this one's fine. Okay, so these are like the angels in the sky, but let's see if we can look through all of them. I'll put you guys through these, because I think it's worth it to look into. Well, I guess I'll only show you guys if it's something really different, because a lot of them are kind of the same. Okay. I'm gonna tell you like the whole story, because like that will make you understand it better. Okay, so this one's a good image. So this is basically, can you see? This is God and like the Jesus figure talking in the clouds, because these are the archangels in heaven, and they're all in an uproar because there's an evil one amongst them, who is Lucifer, aka Satan. And that's the story of Satan, or Lucifer specifically, is that he is an archangel. He's one of the most powerful archangels, and he causes some trouble. He tries to usurp the monarchy of the one God. Oh, thanks for the shout about the music. I'll turn it down now. Thank you. I like not even paying attention to the music anymore. Sorry, guys. Okay, so moving forward is that in this story, then Satan basically tries to gather up his allies, and they talk about what to do. And so Satan then decides that he's going to go into the paradise of Eden and infiltrate it from the inside out. And then he turns into the snake, and that story's there. So let's see. Is there any other good photos? Oh man. Ironically, the last ones aren't that as good. Okay, well, you get the point. That's the story in here, so we're gonna see that play out in these next books. You read all those books, but that grim one, and yeah, is it fixed, you guys? I might even like put it lower now. I hope it's fixed now that my audio, you can hear me better. Thanks, guys. Okay, so next is magic. We are at the point that I really love is talking about the comparisons with Harry Potter, because it's going to just explain the story a lot easier. Thanks. Amazing. That's glad that's better now, you guys. Chat. Awesome. Okay, so the Harry Potter movies. I'm gonna even turn it down even lower, like there. Okay, the Harry Potter movies were basically got 0 Oscars apparently, but while the Lord of the Rings, they got 17 Oscars. So I don't know what happened there, but here we go. Okay, so the inspiration is on the left, the Lord of the Rings is in the middle, and Harry Potter is on the right. We're going to start with the Elven Silmarils from the Silmarillion. That is very much similar to the Sorcerer's Stone. Why? Because the Sorcerer's Stone is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Like in the lore of Harry Potter, the Sorcerer's Stone is made by Nicholas Flamel. So if you remember, Nicholas is an actual wizard in human history. He was like what do you call it? An alchemist. So they told J.K. Rowling, she used Nicholas Flamel and Dumbledore as if they were colleagues, and Dumbledore got mixed up in this whole like guarding of the Sorcerer's Stone made by Nicholas Flamel, blah blah. So it's like a stone that is an immortality, but technically it's not that evil. Like it was just made by an alchemist. It's similar to the Silmarils. The Silmarils aren't evil. They hold immense power. They give you the light of the world, but they're not evil. And I read that it's similar to the Golden Fleece story in ancient ancient Greek myth. It is 4 a.m. right now, so there we go. Lord of the Rings is very different. Not a Harry Potter fan. Movie-wise, Lord of the Rings had better actors. Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, here's the deal. Harry Potter was inspired by Lord of the Rings. This is what I'm getting at. If Lord of the Rings didn't exist, Harry Potter... Here's the deal. I grew up reading Harry Potter because Harry Potter was marketed to young girls. Lord of the Rings is kind of marketed to guys, so I just never really picked it up. But in my mind, when I was reading Harry Potter, I was like, oh my god, J.K. Rowling is a genius. Like, how'd she come up with all this original stuff? And then I read Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, oh, this was written in, like, 1930s, 40s, like, around that era. And way before Harry Potter. Way before 50 years before Harry Potter or so. And it's got so much of the elements that Harry Potter is famous for. Obviously, it's almost like Harry Potter ripped a lot of stuff from Lord of the Rings. But then obviously Lord of the Rings ripped stuff from other places. So this is how art works. It's just a cycle of like artists ripping stuff. And you can do it too. This is my point. If you are intimidated by a lot of these authors and think, oh my god, I will never be like Tolkien or J.K. Rowling. Well, here I am telling you is that all they did was steal ideas, invent some new ones in the mix, and voila, they have it. So you can do it too. Steal some, invent some, reinvent the wheel. So again, Sauron's ring is Happy New Year's, by the way. I'll share some videos at the end of the New Year's. I think it's in 21 minutes. It's gonna be New Year's in New York, so I'll pause for that really quick. I'll keep an eye out on the timer. And Sauron's ring is basically like a Horcrux. Like if you're familiar with the Horcrux in Harry Potter, it contains elements of a soul. And that's kind of similar, like it's kind of got Sauron's soul in it. The ring calls for Sauron. Sauron can call for the ring. Very similar. And the ring was actually inspired by Ring of the Nibelung. This is a Norse myth, ancient Norse myth. And Happy New Year, Sports Gematria. Thanks for tuning in. And I hope you have a great party, you guys, if you guys are out. Come back when you've got more time. But I hope you're with family and friends. Okay. Prophecies. Aragorn has a prophecy. He has a prophecy with a broken sword. He has to reforge the sword. He's basically an heir. So he has to reforge the sword to prove he's an heir. And the prophecy is in Lord of the Rings. You also get the Hall of Prophecies in Harry Potter. And then Fëanor's revenge oaths. So after his Silmarillion, because Fëanor is the elven who forges the Silmarils. So when it's stolen, he basically has a revenge oath that causes bloodshed. And because of the bloodshed of kinslaying, is kind of like the first major evil like event in Lord of the Rings. And then you get that unbreakable vow in Harry Potter. So again, this use of oaths and vows. And riddles is obviously the Gollum's riddle in Lord of the Rings versus the Tom Marvolo riddle in Harry Potter. Wizards, obviously you got, obviously you got wizards in Lord of the Rings. You've got Gandalf. And how funny that it's literally like the same that J.K. Rowling ripped Gandalf and made Dumbledore. Literally the same guy. Like, what? The use of like a male protagonist, this Frodo, it has like the same energy to Harry Potter. The fellowship idea, again, this Arthurian tale. The company, and then you get the Dumbledore's army is kind of like a fellowship in Harry Potter. Who'd win, Sauron or Darth Vader? I'd say Sauron. I feel like Sauron has more of a primordial. Sauron is like a dark wizard. I guess you could say the Dark Lord and Sith Lord and he's also like a dark wizard. They are kind of matched. They are matched. There's like a perfect match. I think Melkor or Morgoth would be Darth Vader, but Sauron and Darth Vader would have a very equal match. What do you think? That's a good one. Elves. This one's the funny one, like, the beautiful elves in Lord of the Rings, and then, like, what are these wonky house elves that Harry Potter ends up using? Like, no, what happened here? I don't think this is copyright. Like, I think you can do elves in your story. Like, you can even make them kind of look like the Lord of the Rings elves. I don't know why she insisted on if she's going to use elves. They ended up being house elves. I agree that there's some sort of element of, like, journey to that, but I much prefer the Tolkien elves. And there's 3 types of elves. I didn't get that watching the movies, but when you read the books, you're very familiar that there's like the forest elves, the water elves, I don't know, the like forger elves, like the ones that are really good with jewels and gems. Then there's all, they kind of differentiate in good and evil depending on if they've seen the Immortal Lands. So the elves that have seen the Immortal Lands in the Lord of the Rings are much more good and much more powerful than the elves that have never been to the Immortal Lands. So there's kind of like that going on too. The creature element of like Gollum, Dobby looks so much like Gollum in his mannerisms, the way he speaks and stumbles and things like that. Okay, this kind of surprised me, but like in the Silmarillion, there's Nienna. Nienna is a ancient goddess of, she's kind of like a mourner, like she's literally, she represents crying and depression, and she, when like the Immortal Lands kind of get destroyed by evil, she like weeps it away kind of thing. I think it's inspired by like ancient myths, obviously, but then Moaning Myrtle in Harry Potter got that element too. The Mirror of Galadriel is so much like the pensieve in Harry Potter. It's almost identical. Like, she really just ripped it off. Like, Galadriel's mirror, I thought it was gonna be like a mirror. Like, you go into the, I don't know, your room, or you go into the bathroom and you see a mirror. I thought the mirror was gonna be like the Snow White mirror. I don't know. No, it's not. It's a pensieve. Like, Galadriel's mirror in Lord of the Rings is like, she goes in a basin and you can see the future, all these events. And kind of like the pensieve, you can see the events. So very similar, where it's like a basin of water here. And similar elves from Celtic and Druid lore. I love that. So that's so cool. Okay, invisibility. So if you didn't catch it in the films, yeah, the rings and the cloaks give you invisibility. When you put on the ring, it makes you invisible. That's a huge theme. And then, of course, Harry Potter and the Cloak of Invisibility. Then runes of, like, the ring has this, like, ancient Mordor language on it. And also there's, like, so many Nordic runes in, like, here and there, like, when they're journeying, when they're trying to see entrances, they use runes and riddles. And then, of course, magic spells or runes in Harry Potter. There's more, but wait, there's more. Spiders are massive. The Ungoliant is a huge character in the Silmarillion. She's like this primordial spider creature, and she gives me kind of like Lilith vibes. She's kind of like Melkor's assistant. She has poison. The spider has poison, and she goes into the Immortal Lands with Melkor, this primordial evil. She basically spoils Eden. She like destroys the trees. Everything like she gets on becomes poison. So she ends up trying to destroy the Silmarillions, but while she does that, Melkor kills her. So that's fine. But then there's Aragog in Harry Potter. Of course, dragons. We got Smaug in Lord of the Rings series. There's some other dragons too. And then the dragons in like Harry Potter. Okay, this one's massive. Like, this is what got me thinking. I'm like, oh my god. I thought in Harry Potter, Dementors were so original. Like, when I first heard or saw of them in Harry Potter, I was like, that is so original. Like, I would have never thought of that. But lo and behold, Lord of the Rings, years earlier, before Harry Potter, was already writing about ringwraiths, these dark riders. Sometimes they're on horses, sometimes they're flying in the sky, but they're basically, they don't have a face. They're made from evil. They're like an evil ethereal being. And yeah, I was like, oh, obviously, ringwraiths. They're kind of, if you just watch the movies, they're not that memorable, but in the book, they're very pervasive. They're always hiding from these ringwraiths, so you will remember them. They're these dark riders. And Lilith has been rehashed in thousands of stories through time, makes for Good storytelling, that's for sure. Lilith is going to be in my novels, so that's why I was so excited to kind of see like a resemblance of her in Lord of the Rings. Okay, werewolves and was another surprise. Like Sauron can transform into a werewolf. Then in Harry Potter, like Harry Potter's godfather can turn into a werewolf. Okay, a traitor. This idea of like a traitor in Harry Potter, there's Wormtongue, and J.K. Rowling just literally ripped it and went Wormtail. Like there's literally such little difference. They're both these like weird, creepy guys that are defect from the inside out. Okay, some more quizzes. So this last time didn't go very well, so I'm not excited about this, but let's see. Okay, so these quizzes, I'm like, can I even, will I ever? Oh, this is getting a bit harder now. So, okay, maybe you can help me if I can get them. Hopefully they're not as difficult as the last one, because those ones are ridiculous. And Happy New Year's. You know what? Let's look at the New Year's countdown really quick. So there's 11 minutes left until New Year's in New York. Now, I'm not sure where you guys are tuning in from, but yay. It's already past New Year's where I live, like way past. It's like 5 a.m. where I am. we already got Isengard. Yeah, you got it right. That's 100% right. Okay, I'm not gonna do this 10-minute counter, but we will celebrate it when we... I will take a break because I will need you guys to celebrate too. I'll come back with... I need a drink too or something. Okay, quizzes. Guys, quizzes. Okay. Oh my gosh. 1 more hour for you. Oh, that's exciting. Okay, Saruman, we already got that answer. Yes. I wish it would just like automatically tell you and not have to go back. Which of these is not a real place in Middle Earth? Mount Zoom. That's too obvious. What's Frodo's sword called? This is so easy. Sting. Yeah, it's funny how they have like different names. Which of these colors do you not associate with Gandalf? Come on, that is too easy. What were the Lord of the Rings movies filmed? Do you guys remember? Because I feel like they're in a few. Sports Gematria is a legend like Gandalf. Yeah, Sports Gematria is a wizard. Okay. What is this? Where? I'm pretty sure it was New Zealand. In front of a massive green screen. That's hilarious. Pretty sure it was. What's Samway's last name? Gamgee. Finish this line. 1 ring to roll them all, and 1 ring to find them. 1 ring them to something bind them. It's that one. Longbeards and Durin's folk are also called what? Oh, Longbeards and Durin. This one's hard. Okay, what? Longbeards and Durin's folk are also called what? I want to say it's dwarves, but what if I'm so wrong? Maybe it's wizard. Durin's folk. What is Durin's folk? Maybe we'll come back to that if you have an answer. In The Return of the King, what do Frodo and Samwise disguise themselves to sneak into Mordor? Is it trolls or goblins? Oh, it's trolls or goblins. I want to say it's goblins. Stupid fat hobbitses. Who says this? Obviously Gollum. Orcs come from Gondor. True or false? Orcs come from Gondor. No. Who killed the Witch King? Witch King? There's a Witch King? One of those massive elephant things. The Witch King? I don't know who killed the Witch King. Dwarves, isn't it? Well, yeah, okay. So we're gonna have to go back and do dwarves for this one. I don't know about this one. Do you guys know who killed the Witch King? Nobody? Let's just choose one. I want to say it's Eowyn. She does end up killing someone, so. Oh, 12 out of 12. Thank you. Sweet. Okay. I asked a super fan to give me 15 Lord of the Rings questions. Let's see how many you can get. What creature is Gollum? This one's so easy. Hobbit. Where is Legolas from? I actually know this one. Do you know this one? It's definitely not Isengard. I want to say he's either from Rivendell or Mirkwood, but I swear he's from Mirkwood. But maybe he's from Edoras. No, I'm pretty sure it's Mirkwood. Okay, I'm just gonna do it because I know that he like shows up in Rivendell, but I'm not sure if that's where he lives. But now I'm like too afraid to choose anything else, so I'm gonna skip it. What do the elves call Gandalf? I know they call him, oh my god, someone calls him Mithrandir, but yeah, I think it's the elves. Yes. In the books, how old is Frodo when he goes to the Shire? Rivendell, yeah. Let's just do Rivendell for now, because I know and it's either Mirkwood or Rivendell. Oh, I knew it. Okay, I knew he was from Mirkwood. I just couldn't. So the thing is, he shows up in Rivendell, so it's like, what are you doing? In the books, how old is Frodo when he leaves the Shire to destroy the ring? I want to say he's 33, lol. He's definitely not 33. Link from Zelda is based off Legolas. Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool. I want to say he's 50. He's literally clearly 50 years old. What's the name of Frodo's sword given to him? This one's too easy. We've already done that. What color does Sting turn when Eric's... That's so specific. I want to say it's green or blue. It's actually blue. That's hilarious. Okay, I need to... That's one thing that I also didn't like get from the from basically the books was that, because like trying to like get this green screen to work right. Sorry guys. Okay, that's one thing I didn't get from the movies, is that there's literally this weapon that changes. It's kind of like a bejeweled, because I think it's an elven knife, and anytime enemies are nearby, it like shines. So that's cool. What is the name of Saruman's tower in Isengard? I want to say it's Minas Morgul. That 33 or Barad-dûr or think. Ooh, I don't know. I think Orthanc is a stone. Barad-dûr seems evil, but so does Minas Morgul. But Isengard kind of is evil for a while. Barad-dûr. Barad-dûr. No, let's go with Barad-dûr. Damn. It was Orthanc. Oh, I thought that was a seeing stone. Okay, there you go. Who forged the 3 elven rings? I know this one. At least I think I know. It's either this one or this one. Oh god, who is it? I want to say it's this one or this one. Celeborn or... Let's go, Celeborn. Oh, got it. Okay. I think this is the Rings of Power character version of him. What was the name of Treebeard's wife? She's not even in it. He probably just mentions her or something. I don't know. Fladrif, Flinglas, Fimberdale sounds right. Oh, there we go. What is the elven name for Rivendell? Elven name for Rivendell. Oh man. I'm stumped actually. Yeah, that wasn't in the movies. I know. I was like, well, they always talk about the Entwives, this and that, but they don't, like, the Entwives are just like this mysterious figure, so who knows. The wine's hitting my now. This is getting harder now. The elven name for Rivendell. I think LOTR is already a place, so I'm not going to choose that. Linden sounds too English. Imladris sounds nice, but this sounds elvish, but sort of evil. I'm going to do Imladris. Oh, heck yeah. Only 2 ring wraiths were named, apart from the witch, King of Angmar. What was the other name? I don't know. I'm like, what do you think? Mablung and the Ranger sounds kind of evil. Oh. Kummel the Easterling also. I don't know, Mablung. Oh. And let's switch over really quick to the YouTube. Alright, there's just a few seconds left of the New Year's in New York. So let's go live. Will it actually like work? Is this actually live? Sorry, I'm probably not gonna put the audio in case it's copyright. But yeah, I think this is live in Times Square, are we not? Watch me like mess this up. Oh, it's happening. I think this is oh yeah, okay, do you see it? 50, 49, 48, 47, 46. Let's look at the ads that are playing right now. Like, what do we have? January 2, Fox, Hulu, what's that? Live on, evil on. If you spell live backwards, it's evil. Well, look at this symbolism here. Look familiar? I'm so excited to share this moment with you guys. Thanks for joining here. Happy New Year. And here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Woo! Look at that Captain America ad that just played. Like, it was like 5, 4, 3, 2. I bet they timed that. They were like, yeah, we want this ad to play right now. Sephora. That's so cool. So yeah, the New Year's was basically rung in around the world. I think this is Australia. And you know, Australia, Lord of the Rings was kind of filmed there in New Zealand, and they do this every year, obviously. This is Hong Kong. And London. I guess. If it always shows up. Oh well. That's basically it. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me on that. Back to our quizzes. Okay, I am going to go take a break. I'm going to leave, what should I leave actually? I'm going to leave this on really quick. And I will be right back because I am just gonna get a drink and see you guys soon. 1 second. Okay, guys, thanks for the break. So, where were we? Quizzes. Okay. Where does Gimli, this is the dwarf that's really familiar from the Lord of the Rings series, right? Gimli. Where does he settle after the War of the Ring? It's gonna be in the Fangorn Forest. No. Oh my god, he settles in the Glimmering Caves. Okay, I get confused because Legolas and him go off into the forest at the end of the series, so I guess he settles somewhere else though. What does Arwen mean in Elvish? Maiden crowned with a garland. Noble maiden, reverend king, or stardom. I would say it's noble maiden, but this is obviously very specific. I'm going to say that. Dang it! Noble maiden. Just go with your gut instinct. Where was the meeting of the Ents held? Oh, this is in this book, actually. I always remember the second book, The Two Towers by the Ents. That's my favorite scene in it. Where is the meeting? I would say it's in this, it's either River Unfwash or Treebeard Hill or something. Oh, Dernzingle. I wouldn't have gotten that. What food does Sam ask Frodo if he remembers the taste of as they travel through Mordor? Second breakfast, surely. Or is it lembas bread? Because they run out of lembas bread. I would say, oh, strawberries. Oh, wow. All right, that was really fun. I think I have a few more quizzes coming up. This is like the rest here, wary traveler meme, but like Legolas. I made it. Okay, back to the Silmarillion. So we're going to talk about the Immortals in the Silmarillion now, and this is what is really Gnostic, is this idea of like, okay, so we got this primordial god being, and he exists, right? And he creates these Ainur, which are basically like demigods, and he creates Maiar, which are basically wizards, like Gandalf. Sauron is also Maiar. And Eru kind of resides in this timeless hall where it's beyond time and space. It's before the world was made. It's very Gnostic in the sense, because Gnosticism, there's a monad, there's one, there's a god, and he exists in the pleroma, which means fullness, and which is very similar to this timeless halls idea. And in Gnosticism, he creates the aeons, but in Tolkien's universe, we got the Ainur. We're going to talk in depth about this, but this right here is basically the locations. So step by step. The first locations in the Silmarillion is basically this timeless halls, but then you're going to need to know about what he calls Arda. Arda is just Earth, and he says it's globular in the description, but it's up to interpretation. I like to see it as when Ea creates Arda, he kind of like holds it up into the void. So in my opinion, it's kind of like a portal. Again, there's no movie. They don't have the rights to this. They don't have the rights to Silmarillion. So we don't know what this looks like in a movie sense. It's yet to be interpreted or manufactured. But this is my opinion. I created these images on the AI. So this is what I prompted it based off when I read it. This is what I thought of. So this is the Eru, the one. He creates the universe, Earth, through this portal, and he's showing it in the sky. And these are his archangels, basically these Ainur. And the Ainur go into the portal. They go into the portal, and they start to shape Earth. So they're the primordial deities that shape the Earth. So the kingdoms of the demigods. So where the demigods reside, and that's so cool that you like making art with the AI. Grok AI is now free on X, and then I use primarily Grok, but also ChatGPT has image generation. Anyway, so where these Ainur demigods end up living, I hope I'm explaining this right, is in Valinor. So Valinor is the Undying Lands. It's like Eden. So within Earth, within this portal, they go into Earth, and the first spot they hunch down on is Eden, right? And Eden is called Valinor, or the Undying Lands. It's where these demigods start shaping the world, and they reside here. There's no men that reside here. This is just these demigods. Within that is a city called Valmar, and within that again is a city called Tirion. Tirion is a city of these noble elves. So noble elves live in this sacred timeless, undying land with the Maya and demigods, wizards. So demigods, wizards, elves kind of all reside here in this undying land, Eden. Now, after Tirion, there's like a bridge here, and from Tirion, there's Middle Earth. Now, Middle Earth is your Earth, the Earth as we know it, for mortals. This is where men live. This is mortality resides here. So Frodo, at the end of the series, goes to Valinor. So if you're wondering where he goes in that ship, he goes all the way back to the Undying Land. So it's a good thing. He's going there because he's obviously suffered a lot. He's had to carry the ring. He's suffered injury. He can no longer feel this ultimate happiness, and it needs a cure, and he obviously wins it through his sacrifice of carrying the ring and all that. So he basically gets sent to Valinor with Bilbo. Right, Bilbo. Well, he ends up going to Valinor as well. So I hope I've explained that there's like a timeless halls where Eru the One lives. Eru does not go in the earth, so only these demigods go into earth. And then in the earth, there's Eden, and then there's Middle Earth. You use Grok too. Heck yeah. Okay, so we talked about these demigods. Gosh, these like, I'm using Canva, so it's like, keeps popping up. Where these demigods and elves live we have these cities like Avalmar, Tirion, Aquilond, and then that's in Valinor. This is the Undying Lands. We have these cities. This is basically at the port. And then this is Middle Earth. In Middle Earth, the elves live in Gondolin, Rivendell, and Lothlorien. I remember Lothlorien as the forest elves. So that's how you can, I guess you can just differentiate. The reason why these elves live in different cities is primarily because they're different type of elves. Like, there's forest elves, there's water elves. The water elves live on the shore, they love boats. Things like the forest elves live in the forest, and so on. So there's a logic and reason for everything, which is so why this is so cohesive. Lord of the Rings. You did a presentation in college on The Hobbit? No way. How did you enjoy the process of that? Because it's like, obviously it speaks a lot to you when you put a lot of work and effort into something. So let's talk about the immortal pantheon then, because there's a lot of immortal. It's a pantheon. It's a polytheistic pantheon with a monotheistic god. I don't know what are we talking about here? We're talking about Gnosticism. We're talking about Nordic myths. We're talking about Greek myths, and we're talking about Christianity all in one. And this amazing lore that he brought to us. So it's like, it should be respected like its own like addition to religious like work. Honestly, it's genius. It can be read or interpreted as its own religion. It was 11 years ago, but it was different. I usually do nonfiction books. Very cool. What's the latest book that you've read? Okay, the one creates the demigods, the one creates the wizards, the one creates the earth, and the one creates the elves and the men, period. That's what Source creates. That is pure. These are the most pure energy sources. They are the most pure. The one becomes the Ainur. Let's break this process down because it's a complicated idea. I'm switching his terms for our terms so that you get it easier. And I'm trying to also include the terms that Tolkien uses so you can remember those terms too. So he uses the term Valar, Well, these are called the Ainur. The Ainur are both the Valar and the Maiar, okay? The Valar are demigods. They are the most powerful, closest to God. So there's God and then there's the demigods, the Valar. They're capable of shaping the world. Like, they can create rivers, they can create mountains, the sky, animals, beings. They have primordial energy powers. One of them creates the forest Ents, so they're so powerful, the Valar, the demigods, that they could create a race of beings like the Ents, and they create the race of beings of the dwarves. So the demigods create the dwarves. God does not create the dwarf directly. That's why it's an adoption. We had that question earlier. Why is there an adoption of they call it the children of Eru Iluvatar. These are the children of Iluvatar, and then Eru, the god, adopts the dwarves, because the dwarves are made by the demigods, but God adopts them. So he welcomes them. He doesn't think that they are evil. Because remember, God is oh my gosh. God, I have all these images pre-saved. It's like, okay, God is ultimate good in Tolkien's Pantheon. He took this from Gnosticism. He really did. Because Gnosticism is so unique in that God is ultimate purity. Pure, and he creates pure things. The only thing is we're going to talk about this evil a bit later. Okay, the wizards we'll talk about the evil now then. Okay, so there is a demigod that is evil. But he again is a demigod. He's not as powerful as God. And he wasn't created evil. He wasn't meant to be evil. He kind of just happened. It wasn't like Eru created an evil one. It kind of just, through the course of time, one of them became corrupted. So you could say it wasn't born evil, if that makes sense. But that's kind of the Lucifer's story. So Lucifer, we get that point. The wizards, so one of them, one of them is the spider we talked about, Ungoliant. She is a wizard, primordial wizard, and she helps steal the Silmarils. Another wizard is Sauron. He forges the ring. And another wizard is Gandalf. He helps destroy the ring. So these are all wizards. Physics book for work. It's not as fun. Oh, nice. I'm really interested in metaphysics. I had a documentary called Metaphysics, but physics I'm not too well versed on. So how do you feel about like the physics in magic? that's a topic. And then, so these kind of are the first to awaken. And then we get the elves are next to awaken. And they are welcomed by the demigods. So the demigods help the elves. But they also, that one bad demigod corrupts the elves. And from corrupting the elves, there's the revenge oath. And the wrath leads to kinslaying. And then, but there are some good elves after all. And Elrond helps destroy the ring. Okay, so the Silmarillion main characters, we're going to see a little bit about them, and then their counterpart. So, Eru the One, he creates the Ainur, the demigods, and he creates the earth, and he creates elves and men, right? Manwë is the next demigod. Okay, what I find interesting about Tolkien, and you can read it on the first page of this book. Let's read it. Sorry, there's like a foreword and a letter, and it's always something. Okay, here. This is the first chapter. Ready? There was Eru the One. There was Eru the One, who in Arda is called Iluvatar. So there was Eru the One is the first sentence of the Silmarillion, the first book to predate the Lord of the Rings. And this is talking about the Pantheon. So Eru the One is the main character. And Tolkien made sure to use the One. So we need to make sure that we're labeling it correctly. So we have the One. So after him, the closest to him that he makes in terms of like the Ainur or the Valar is Manwë. And he's gonna look to you a lot familiar because he's like Zeus. He's got the eagle. So anytime in Lord of the Rings where they get saved, which happens quite often, like in the Two Towers or Return of the King. I have so many books right now, it's ridiculous. Okay, so Return of the King. The eagles save them at the end. Twice. Yeah, when Gandalf was stuck in the Moria, the eagles helped him, and the eagles helped them again at the very last battle against Sauron. And the eagles helping them out of nowhere is not random. It's because this Manwë character is supposed to represent the eagles. So you could say that like the second closest to God is helping them out indirectly by sending these eagles through nature, because that's how God speaks, is through these eagles. So anytime they're kind of like stuck in a rut, that's when at the end of the day God helps them in some way, shape, or form, and the eagles come. So if you were wondering like, oh, why eagles? That doesn't make sense. Like, no, there's a logical sense. Like, there's a God, and he clearly communicates through eagles in this pantheon. He helps build Valinor and Eden. He guides elves after the loss of the Silmarils, and he leads the Valar to defeat Melkor. Okay, Varda is third, and she basically creates the starlit skies as the lights, and later on, she creates the sun and the moon. Ulmo, he shapes all the oceans. He tries to help all the elves. Like, he teaches them how to ride boats. And he tries to help Atlantis, that island of like, there's like an island basically modeled after Atlantis, where the men are kind of noble to the point that they were gifted by the gods to extend their lifespan by a certain time. But their curse was that they lived so close to the immortal lands that they wanted to see it, but God forbid their entry, so they were not, so these like men were not allowed to become immortal. Even though they had expanded lifetimes. So that ended up falling. There's the fall of Numenor, which equals the fall of Atlantis. So almost kind of like a principal character in some of that too. So where does this come from? Why are these familiar to you? Well, Eru is kind of like, okay, I don't know if this is accurate, but I had to Google it, and this is the best comparison. There's a Greek primordial being called Phanes, or Phanes, I'm not sure. But in Gnosticism, it's quite simple, the monad. Monad translates to the one. So Eru the one, monad, I saw that as like such a comparison. And these are in order of like the years they were written. Like, for, obviously it's not Tolkien. Tolkien is just for the comparison. And then Greek is the most ancient, Gnostic is close behind, and then Norse is a few hundred years after. So this is that order of like where things were inspired from. And then there's Tolkien's legendarium and Aristotle's metaphysics. I have the book. Oh great, I have the book as well. How do you feel about all of these characters? Do any of them ring a bell? So Zeus and Manwë, obviously we made that comparison. And then in Gnosticism, we kind of have like this Christ figure as like this Manwë figure. And then Odin in Norse mythology. Varda is very closely to like Selene or Astrea or Not in Norse. Ulmo is obviously Poseidon. There's this Okeanos in Gnosticism. And I don't know how to say this, but I think it's Njordr in Norse. And then we have Aule. Aule builds Valinor earth, as in like he makes mountains. He's like Hephaestus. So Aule, he helps forge the Silmarils, and he creates the dwarves. So that's why the dwarves are a lot like him. Like, they like to build things, because Aule is like that. And because Aule is a good Ainur, or Valar, because he's a good Valar, that's why that's why Eru ends up adopting the dwarves, is because they are good, because Allah made them. Yavanna is Allah's wife, allegedly, and she is like like Demeter. She plants the two trees of Valinor, which are the primordial lights of the universe, and she requests the Silmarils because the Silmarils captured the light of the plants. So she requests them to be handed over to her, and it causes all this drama. They don't trust her, but even though she's meant to be trusted. But basically she says like, she kind of says like, okay, well, you, elf, you crafted the Silmarils, but it was I, because I'm a primordial goddess, I'm the one that crafted the lights, and the Silmarils wouldn't exist without the lights. So that's kind of how that goes. And she also creates the Ents. So if you were wondering where they were made, that's how. Orome is closely related to like this Apollo figure. Or like, what's that one that like travels? Mercury. He's always kind of depicted on horseback. He's the one that travels around to Middle Earth, and he discovers the elves on behalf of the demigod. So he's a demigod that kind of travels around and discovers things, and he hunts evil as well. And then Tulkas was an interesting character. I had to Google. I was like, who is this inspired by? It's kind of inspired by Hercules, but I'll also say Thor. And he's like a fighter type. Like, he's hunting Melkor, the evil. He was basically made to hunt evil. And he's the strongest one. So that's why I put Hercules there too. And then the Tolkien Pantheon also includes like darkness and evil. Now, Mandos is an immortal deity, but he's just kind of like Hades. Like, there's nothing really evil about him other than he just guides spirits. So he guides spirits, and he's not evil. He's just kind of like a grim reaper. So he delivers fates and guides souls to the afterlife. But he's up there with the power of the same of these other demigods. And then this is the last one of the same powers, Melkor. Melkor later gets renamed to Morgoth. So that's really confusing. But just remember that originally he was called Melkor. Again, he's introduced in the Silmarillion. He steals the Silmarils. He's wearing them right there. And he basically corrupts everyone. He corrupts Sauron. He's the source of it all. He does get defeated, but because Sauron lives, evil doesn't really die out, kind of thing. But he directly is he's a demigod like Lucifer. He corrupts elves and other demigods. He steals the Silmarils, and he creates orcs and goblins. So that's another thing, is like a lot of these evil creatures are all because Melkor made them. Hey, thanks for the chat. So hopefully you all have an amazing new year. Stuck at work for another hour. Stuck at work at another hour? Where in the world are you? Over here it's 5 a.m. So I'm reading Stuck at Work. I'm like, oh my gosh. But I am aware that everyone's living in other places of the world. But yeah, hopefully you guys did have a happy new year, and thanks for jumping in this chat now, today, or wherever, whenever. Okay, more evil wizards are going to be the Ungoliant, again, the spider that helps steal the Silmarils and destroys the two trees of Valinor. Sauron is an evil Maiar or wizard. He's below Melkor, so he's got less power, but he was corrupted by Melkor. Sauron obviously corrupts elves and men, and he forges the One Ring. And then Saruman was originally good. Again, he gets corrupted. He's kind of like equal in strength to Sauron in a way because they're both wizards, so he kind of has a duel with him. He's not really like an ally. He's more like a competitor, but he does the same thing. He's corrupted by lust for the ring and corrupts. He's all the way at the end because he's the final remaining bad guy after they've thwarted Melkor, they've thwarted the Ungoliant, they've thwarted the Sauron. Saruman remains till the very end. That's why he's so like pervasive in people's mind and why people get him confused with Sauron all the time. It's because he almost seems like the main bad guy, and in many ways he's the only one with like an actor, because these ones are all like, this one's not even in any of the movies, and this one's always got like a shield on or something. Lovecraftian demon. Yeah, well, Lovecraft... No, I don't think Lovecraft had... You're right. Wait. Lovecraft had it already written before Tolkien's time. Yeah, I think that's true. I think it was Lovecraft first, then Tolkien. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, and so again, Mandos is kind of like Hades. There's this Gnostic god called Abrasax and Norse god Hel. Or Melkor's most like Kronos in Greek lore, the Demiurge in Gnostic lore, and Loki in Norse lore. And here's the wizards, the evil wizards. Okay, the mortals got a really interesting story because some become mortal, like for example Arwen, she is an elf that becomes mortal through marriage. Okay, so the mortals welcome the mortals in the Pantheon. The men end up waking up. So in the Silmarillion, there's a story of a mortal called Beren, and he's directly influenced by Tolkien himself, because on Tolkien's grave it says J.R.R. Tolkien, and then it says Beren, and then his wife says Luthien, the wife. So he's the main character. He's kind of like a parental line too. Like I think he ends up having a children, and the child is Arendelle. So there's like a blood lineage. What you gotta understand with the evil and good is that typically there's a good lineage and an evil lineage, and the heroes have kids that become heroes, while the evil villains have kids that become villains, kind of thing. So that's kind of, you keep track of it that way. There's a lot of heirs going on, like we said earlier, H-E-I-R, heirs. There's a lot of heirs of thrones, so you kind of trace it that way. If you know their parents were good, you can deduct that their children were probably a hero as well. So that's what ends up happening is Beren in the Silmarillion steals back a Silmaril, making him one of the most revered mortal, one of the most good mortals there is. And then his offspring, Arendelle, defeats Morgoth, earning him a spot as the North Star. He literally becomes he goes to travel to the North Star. And then there's some descendants going on. I don't know if it's direct, but somehow Aragorn is also a good male in The Return of the King. He's the final king, the good king that prevails and returns. And he is an heir. He has a good bloodline. His father defeated Sauron at one point. This is a lot. It's a lot to explain, but I'm trying here. Okay, so the women who are mortal are obviously Luthien. She's recognizable because she has a huge dog. And then Eowyn is that mortal knight, and Arwen is that mortal elf. The dwarves are mortal, and the animals are mortal. Like the treebeard ents, they do die. The eagles, I believe they die. I'm not actually sure. But and the horses, like Shadowfax, Gandalf's horse. Okay, let's look closer at the evil. We're almost done here. Aragorn versus Link from Zelda. Aragorn versus Link from Zelda. You know, I've not looked into Link enough to be able to know, but from my opinion, Aragorn's stature, just by like how he's depicted in terms of in terms of Link from Zelda, I think Aragorn is more of a knight, is more manly. He's literally gone into the doors of Mordor, you know, with his sword up for Frodo, like facing oncoming doom, facing literally the wizard of evil and death. I don't know if Legolas has done something like that. I'm not sure with the I'm not sure if Link has done something like that. I'll have to look into the Legend of Zelda. Thanks for the rec. Let me know what you think. No, that's so funny. Okay, so the evil, you gotta understand there's different bad guys create different evil things, okay? So the most evil, again, he's not in any of the movies because he's in the Silmarillion. And Silmarillion doesn't have a movie. The most evil bad guy is the most source of all evil in the world, in the universe, and he creates dragons, Balrogs. This is the thing that Gandalf fights in the caves of Moria, where he falls and he renews and he dies. This thing basically kills him, although he resurrects. It's like a fire-breathing fire demon. And then he creates goblins as mockery of the elves, trolls as mockery of the ents, wargs as mockery of the wizards, and orcs as mockery of the elves. And then Sauron creates black riders, or the Ringwraiths, or like the Dementors, and Barrow-wights, which are other spirits. And then Saruman creates more half-orcs, and specifically a type of orc called Uruk-hai. Okay, so now let's talk about how this book inspired my book series. I'm gonna switch to Mount Doom. Okay, so this book series has really inspired me, especially this book in particular. We talked about how it's a genesis, how we get Eru the One, how he creates these demigods, how they create these wizards, and at the helm of it all is about good and evil. Okay, this is inspiring to me. My series is called Mortal Series. It's a work in progress. I've not copyright checked it, double checked it, but I do own the Instagram and Twitter accounts Mortal Series. So the only thing I could think of is that maybe Mortal Kombat might have an issue with it, but it's not going to be called Mortal Kombat. There's no combat in the name. It's literally the Mortal series. So let's see if I can take it and see it all the way through. I had the logo made. So Mortal series versus Lord of the Rings, and what I'm drawing from inspiration. Maybe you can do this too with your own. So there is a void in the let me read the comment. Link defeats giants though. Yeah, but is it like the worst giant, the most evil giant of them all? But yeah. Paid troll, that's a funny comment because we're talking about trolls. That's hilarious. Okay, so the void exists in the Silmarillion, but I mean it's mentioned quite a few times, like 3 or 4 or 5. But it's not personified. There's no god, deity that's the void. The void doesn't have any script, doesn't have any dialogue, but it exists. Basically, the bad guy, Morgoth, is thrown into, like this guy, he's thrown out into the void. So that's part of the thing that we heard about the void is that this guy goes out into the void. That's how they defeat him. So it's kind of like a place where they toss bad guys out. But in my series, and I made this with AI, in my series, there's going to be void gods. Not just one, many void gods. And they're going to be awesome. They're like void gods are, in my series, are basically like primordial ethereal beings that there's no evil within them. Like, there's absolutely no 0% evil. They're just pure holy good ancient, like, profound knowledge. I'm a paid troll as well, allegedly. Gosh, it's unbelievable how the internet uses the troll language. That's so funny. I wonder what Tolkien would feel about all this internet slang that gets thrown around these days. I wonder what Tolkien would be like on the internet, but I have a pretty good idea. Okay, so Heir the One, I'm gonna steal that, but I had already been brewing this idea. I just happened to read it and go like, oh, I can't believe that the idea that I had is already in this book. I was like, wow, this is awesome. So it already exists. Basically, why it already exists, because it's obviously drawn on ancient religion and Paradise Lost and all these old books. But Gnosticism, also ancient, the Modon, that's how I got into it. I learned about Gnosticism, so I had this idea, I want to include the monad. And lo and behold, I have this idea integrated now again through Lord of the Rings. So Lord of the Rings uses Ainur. I'm going to use Aeons. Aeons are Gnostic as well. That's the terminology. Thanks! I think I appreciate it. It took me a long time to do this, so I can't wait to see it through and like have videos for you in the future, not just images. Okay, wizards, I'm gonna have archangels, and instead of elves, I'm doing angels, just subpar. Mortals, obviously, he uses the word mortal quite a lot, and a lot of my favorite books use the word mortal, so that's why my mortal series. Hey, are you streaming through midnight? What time is it? It is 5:45 a.m. where I am. I stream through the New York midnight. I could probably find like a Chicago one or something. I could try. I know it's like in like 15 minutes. There's another New Year's because like there's tiers through all the time zones. I'm aware. Yeah, I'm definitely past New Year's here. I can't believe I'm still up. I'm literally like, I was like, I'd rather do this and stream rather than go out and party or do anything. So, oh, California. Okay, so I'm assuming like a few more hours left. So, okay, my mortals in my series, I'm gonna take you through the most celebrated, high-profile characters. And some of my obvious characters, well, Tolkien is one of them. I have Jimi Hendrix is another character. John Lennon, I don't know, everyone. Marilyn Monroe. These are just an example of the mortals that are going to be listed in my series and how they're going to interact. Now, to my surprise, there's actually vampires in the Silmarillion. Yeah, I was like, what? I did not expect that. So Sauron has a vampire form, but also he has a servant who is a vampire mistress, and she is like this. So mine are going to be a bit more modern, a bit more Twilight-y, but yeah. Okay, the evil, I'm going to do live, and what I mean by that is, okay, you know how in Heir the One, he says the comment of nothing hath not been created. I have it somewhere. Let's go all the way back. Because I have the quote. Okay. No theme may be played that... Oh my god. No theme may be played that hath not its uttermost source in me. So you see how he says that? No theme may be played that hath not its uttermost source in me. No theme may be played that not hath its uttermost source in me. No theme may be played that not hath its uttermost source in me. So what it's saying is like, it doesn't matter if there's these evil people, like, the source is on me. Like, I am the most powerful, heir of the one. So you, as an evil being, do not have more authority than me. So I love that idea. And I think that often goes undetected with a lot of the Lord of the Rings fans or critics. They kind of cover like the war stuff or this like prevalent evil, but they don't really like mention Eru the One being superior and being authoritative. So I want that experience of like what it's saying is basically like, is that Eru basically made the world. Eru made the world in order for good and evil to coexist, in order for good to basically balance evil out, and vice versa. So it's like a place for duality, right? And it's kind of like a place to learn. So what I'm saying is like, when you live, you learn. So this evil idea is like, in my series, it's like, well, yeah, evil exists because you need evil to learn wisdom. So that's the theme that I want to keep going, and I hope that I can do justice and keep it surviving, because that's such an interesting theme. Rings of Power, I really love that, but I also love romance, and soulmates. Like, my whole thesis is about soulmates. So I really want to play around with like these wedding rings and see what I could do there of like that motif. And then through a reincarnation cycles of like, if you get the point. And then there and back again is before Joseph Campbell put out his Hero's Journey book. 1 second. Okay, you know, this book came out in like 1942, The Hero's Journey. This basically tells you that the hero needs to go somewhere and back again. Fundamental to like Star Wars, basically every major series. Yeah. Someone just commented that's what the Sith say in Star Wars and stuff. I was like, well, I just said Star Wars, that's mad. Okay, before this book, so this book came first, Tolkien came first, and then, how do I do this? I'm tripping, I'm like trying to, okay, Tolkien came first, so primarily like The Hobbit is a good example. I don't know where it is. Oh, here. Well, there goes one book. Okay. The Hobbit is a good example of there and back again. It's basically the Hobbit came first and then Hero's Journey. So Hobbit is a good example of the Hero's Journey though, because the other name for the Hobbit is there and back again. Synchronicity. I love when that happens. It happens so often. It's like absolutely unbelievable how often I'm like, oh my god. Okay, so next. More quizzes. I don't know if I can get through another one, but let's see. Let's see what I have. Okay, who is the heir, oh my gosh, of Gondor? Is this going to be like the most easy ones again? Aragorn. Who is Evenstar Arwen? Who is Lady of Light Galadriel? Who has the title Half Elven? Elrond. Whose title is redundant in another language? Healthy years? I don't even know what that is. According to the books, how long was Gandalf captured at Orthanc? 1 day or 1 month? I think it's 1 month. According to the books, what was Saruman's nickname right before he died? Old Man. What is the name of Galadriel's husband? Is Celebrimbor. Glorfindel is a reborn elf who aided Aragorn in bringing the hobbits to Rivendell. Oh my god. How did he die? Glorfindel is a reborn elf who aided Aragorn in bringing the hobbits to Rivendell. Oh my god. I'm gonna say he died fighting a freaking dragon. Aragorn sings a song in the books that is a direct parallel to the relationship he has with Arwen. What is the name of the man in the song? A Baron. Oh no. Oh, but okay, to be fair, it was 5 out of 10, so I did not have that many options to get 50%. What powers does the ring give its wearers? Strength and invisibility, obviously. Name the other hobbits who traveled with Frodo on this journey to destroy the ring. Yeah. Which person saved the hobbits lives at the Prancing Pony? He lives there? I guess, well, I don't think Aragorn lives there, but let's put that. What happened to Frodo and the rest of the travelers when they entered Moria? Attacked by a Balrog, yeah. Why didn't Frodo die when he was speared during the fight in Moria? When he was speared, he was wearing a mithril coat. I want to say that he was wearing the mithril coat. 50 is still decent. No. My bad. I'm like rereading things really bad. Okay. What? That's not 50. That's 80%. That's good. That's not bad. 80% is not bad. And I have one more. It's 9 a.m. in California. Oh, wow. It's the next day. It's bright and early. I'm honestly gonna have my day start my day in a few hours too. How do I start this? I was like oh, these are just like, oh, fun. Okay, no, we're done with these. Okay, almost done with the presentation. We'll scrub through the movies at the end and all good. Oh, I think that's actually it. Yeah. No, I did go through everything. Okay, oh my gosh. Thanks so much for joining me. Like, I think that's basically it for that. And now it's kind of like also not. There we go. Trying to make sure we get to the very beginning. Yeah, we went through a lot, you guys. Thanks so much for hanging out. Okay, so something is bugging me about this. There we go. Okay. Okay, let's look at the movie really quick. Okay, so the movie obviously This is Fellowship of the Rings. Let's go back to Mount Doom. Okay, so basically the Lord of the Rings. What did we like? What did we not think was well represented? I think, you know, the Fellowship was really well, like, book accurate. There's some scenes that I felt like, oh, I was so stoked. I honestly think it's closer towards the end when it starts deviating pretty bad. There's obviously like a story kind of recount that happens right at the very beginning that it's got to do with. This is Isildur. So this is Sauron. This is a kind of old stuff. That's Elrond, but Elrond is an elf, so he lives for a long time, right? But this is Isildur. This is like Isildur is about to go on. So that's him, one of these guys. That's Sauron. That's the One Ring. Sauron, again, is that wizard. He's not Melkor. He's just a wizard. But in these movies, he's the most scary. He doesn't have a human form. There's no actor. He's just a guy in a mask. So Isildur is this guy right here. Isildur manages to take off the ring, and this is the broken sword. This is like the context to the prophecy of Aragorn and the sword. Lord Voldemort versus Lord Sidious. Who wins? Coming out with great questions. I'd say Lord Voldemort. Voldemort's scarier than Sidious in my opinion, but that's so funny. Good call. Okay, this is me trying to explain these movies because you might not pick up on this. So this is Aragorn's father. So if you're wondering why Aragorn walks around with the broken sword and all that jazz, and why he has like the prophecy of him becoming king, why is the Return of the King about? This is the Two Towers. Oh, that's the one on the floor. It fell off the... One second. Okay, if you're wondering, Return of the King, why, who? Okay, Aragorn's son, Isildur's son is Aragorn. Aragorn becomes king. Why? Why does he deserve to be king? Because of this scene. Because Aragorn's father, back in the old days, was one of the first to take off Sauron's ring. And when he took it off, he eventually lost it. And then Gollum ends up finding it. And then Bilbo finds it. And then Bilbo gives it to Frodo. Frodo tries to give it back to Aragorn. Aragorn's like, no, I can't take it. But I will take the broken sword, reforge it, and I will become king. Did that make sense? Oh my god. I feel like that's something that when I watched the movies, I had no idea. But now you know. So yeah, he's about to take off the ring. This is the old lore. And Isildur then... Yeah, Sauron gets defeated, but his spirit remains. So that's the Lord Voldemort element that she ripped off this Tolkien idea, that Sauron gets defeated. You just saw him like basically blow up into white light. He gets defeated, but technically his spirit survives. And there's the Horcrux element of like the ring has Sauron's spirit in it, kind of going on. So he's wearing the ring right on his chest. So now what's happening is Isildur kind of is getting attacked. And when he gets attacked, he runs off into the pond area. And when he tries to turn it on, but he drowns in the marshes and it gets lost. So that's Aragorn's dad, right? And then Aragorn's dad dies, and the ring gets lost at the very end. Gollum finds it. And yep, this is Gollum picking it up. Because why is it a white hand, not like Gollum creature hands? Because Gollum used to be, what was his name? Gollum used to have a name in like the Hobbit language. Do you guys remember what it was? Gollum used to have a name. I forget now. But okay, Gollum used to be a normal hobbit, and because he found the ring, he started to obsess with it and call it my precious, and then he becomes Gollum. That's it. So, question, how do you feel about Battle of Bywater left out of movies? Kind of get why it was left out of Saruman's death change, but would have been nice to see it. See, I haven't rewatched the last one in so long, so I don't have the last scene. I don't know in my memory, but we can pull it up at the very end. So let me just scrub through and we'll get... Smeagol was the name. Yes, Smeagol was the name. So Smeagol, this is Smeagol's scene, and then we'll get to the very end of Saruman's death scene, quote unquote. Okay, so then Bilbo finds it. This is recounting the events of The Hobbit, basically, although he looks old there. And Shire. This all was very book accurate. So Bilbo doesn't want to give it up, but he does eventually gift it. So Bilbo doesn't really know that it's a ring of power. He was just using it, but Gandalf starts to realize, like, oh my god, this is the ring of power. I can't believe it. Like, this is some serious business. It's starting to corrupt everybody. What are we gonna do? Like, Frodo, I need you to do something about this because, oh my god, what is going on? So, like, he doesn't even trust himself to carry the ring because it's too scary for even him, a great wizard. What makes it so special about hobbits is that they have this connection with nature that is kind of like far surpassing other men or elves or even wizards. So hobbits have this natural affinity to resist sin or temptation innately. That's why it kind of makes it perfect for a hobbit to carry the ring in order to not be tempted by it. But there's several moments where even Frodo can't even, like, it does drive him insane. So he gets the ring there. Then basically the adventure starts. Okay. That Aragorn scene that just doesn't... Legolas, pretty accurate. Okay, this is the... Is this the Gates of Moria scene? Yeah, it is. I think that's where Gandalf is about to die. That's a scene where Frodo puts on the ring. And then he's deciding, okay, well, I definitely need to go destroy it. People are turning corrupt. I don't trust anyone. Back off. Basically, that's the end. And then Sam's like, no, I'm going with you to Mordor. You can't go alone. Okay, cool. Let's go to the next one. Oh wait, I accidentally put on Return of the King. No, wrong one. Oh, this is where I got really mad because it's so not accurate, this Two Towers one. Also the like timing of when this came out was like 2002. I was like, Two Towers, really? The obviously the movie production team really, like, I don't know, something synchronicity there. It's a bit odd. So in the book, the Hobbit story stuff doesn't start until the second half, but in the movie, it's the first thing, so that's already messes up the, like, there's a scene that gets left out, like Tom Bombadil isn't in it. I don't know if that was in the first one or not. Let's see what else. The ring wraiths are after them. Gollum's what was amazing. Gollum was probably my favorite part of the movie, as everyone's movie. Super accurate. Gandalf comes back as the White. He's basically resurrected with more powers, because he fought the Balrog, the primordial fire demon. The Eowyn, the I forgot, Wormtongue, whatever his name is. The tower is so cool. I mean, it's obviously like an Illuminati eye. Sauron, Saturn, Kronos, Time Lord. The Ents are super memorable in this movie. Okay, and then let's go to the end card. I'm fading because I've been streaming for a while now. 3 hours. It's probably just missed another New Year's somewhere. Every hour it keeps ringing in. So yeah, this is the one that I haven't seen again in a while. Like, I rewatched the other ones recently, but I haven't seen this one recently. Oh. So, not sure. Oh, where is it? Lembas Brads. It reminds me of Dragon Ball, how like in Dragon Ball there's like the capsules, and the capsules, if you take one capsule, it'll basically sort you out for the rest of the day. This is like the Lembas elven bread that if you just have a little bit and it'll like carry you through, and that's such a unique story point. I'm trying to like read if this is accurate just by scrubbing it, but it's hard to know if I'm just pulling images. I'm like, is this accurate? I'm like, I don't even know what's going on. What's it supposed to? Oh yeah, this is another thing. Okay, this totally passed me by in the movies. I totally forgot this was even a thing. But this is another thing that's so interesting because like Pirates of the Caribbean redid this part. You know in the Pirates of the Caribbean, the Dead Man's Treasure. I think it's the first one where they have it's like the Aztec gold. The Aztec gold is cursed, and the pirates that stole the Aztec gold all become these like dead men walking, and like they're in the moonlight. They become these immortal ghosts. It reminds me of this scene in The Lord of the Rings where Aragorn goes out to kind of recruit the army of like the undead or the dead, and yeah, it's like, it reminds me of that. There's also a scene in Lord of the Rings where they're looking out on the river and they see all the dead faces and the floating, and then there's that scene in Harry Potter that's just like it. So there's a lot of parallels. That's probably one of my favorite frames. Eowyn, I love her character, like being a mortal warrior princess. Wow, this is very like Troy, Odyssey. It's amazing how it turned out. Even though I'm not much of a war person, like I have to skip all this war stuff when I read it, or I have to scan through it because I'm not too much of a fan of it. But I prefer like the friendship arc. Yeah, so there's obviously this huge war that happens because evil tries to get at the doors of Gondor, and a lot of kings and people die. And that's the orb, by the way. That's interesting. That's like the seeing stone. That's a cool frame too. I think he's a bit better at acting in this last film, I will say. I feel like he really like got into his role. Wow. Okay, here's the scene. The Mordor scene. So yeah, Frodo, like, I always thought Frodo just throws it, but then this is a whole arc where, like, Frodo actually is like, you know what, I'm actually gonna keep the ring, like, screw you guys, like, I'm gonna keep it, like, and so he puts it on at the Mountain of Doom, and the Eye obviously, like, figures out where he is now, and all these ring rafts start going towards him. Yeah, this is accurate to the book so far. And then, yep, they're all fighting. Gandalf's like, oh no, what's just happened? But then, out of nowhere, Smeagol, aka Gollum, knocks Sam out. He goes, where's Frodo? Like, come here, Frodo. So this is how Gollum ends up being the one that destroys the ring, is like he starts fighting Frodo, who's invisible, who's wearing the ring. And what ends up happening is the following. So see, he's still fighting Frodo, who's invisible. Again, this stuff, like, I never like, it never stuck in my mind when I saw this series. He takes the ring off, and voila. Yep, accurate to the book. And here we go. That ultimate shot. And he's gonna fall eventually, like, classic. Okay. And he wakes up back at Gondor. There's the wedding of the king and Arwen, because he's now fit to be a king, because he's defeated the bad guy. Although, like, their love story is not very, it doesn't really sell it. I feel like the love story with Luthien and Beren is better in the Silmarillion. So if you're looking for a better love story, read the Silmarillion, but it's very similar. Is it mortal elf and mortal man end up marrying? She becomes mortal. It's a very similar copy. It's like he took the same characters and just remade them as Aragorn and Arwen. Galadriel. Oh, look at that shot. That's beautiful. This is the end, obviously. So, did it cut out? Yeah, it did. I see what you mean. It did cut out. Like, in the movie it just seems like it ends after the ring and all that, but like actually in the book they come back to the Shire and it's all messed up and they have to battle Saruman. So it's a bit shame that they didn't add that. I feel like you do miss quite a lot. There's a lot of closure that you miss by not being able to see that. So anyway, thanks so much. This is the final scene, the boat scene, so we'll end it here. And again, thanks so much for... I'll take the chat box on for now. Okay, thank you guys for joining my awesome geek out stream for Lord of the Rings. Hopefully you got some out of this. And I will see you guys next time. I will be back. I have Game of Thrones coming up, the Harry Potter, Twilight, and so much more. So